Chapter 292. Zhou Donghuang, don't misunderstand. Yu Yuqing smiled warmly. The Sky Sun fruit is yours. If you want to exchange it, you can. If you don't want to, no one can force you to. I came to find you mainly to remind you. Just now, after you left, the 14th prince of the Qi dynasty, Qi Rui, threatened you right in front of me. His exact words were, "In the Honglio galaxy, if a genius dies prematurely and is unable to grow, then he is useless." As he spoke, the smile on Yu Yuqing's face disappeared completely and was replaced by a serious expression. In the future, before you have the ability to protect yourself, do not leave the Lightning Sword sect if you can help it. Even if you want to leave, you have to inform Valley Head He and let him accompany you. Yu Yuqing said, "I will inform Valley Head He later." The current Zhou Donghuang was like a rare treasure to Yu Yuqing. This was because with Zhou Donghuang's talent and power of understanding, he would definitely become a powerful figure in the Honglio galaxy in the future. The young and promising Zhou Donghuang could even enter the divine transformation stage without rushing to leave the Honglio galaxy. In the Honglio galaxy, those divine transformation adepts who were in a hurry to leave the Honglio galaxy for a galaxy with a better training environment and more abundant training resources were usually older divine transformation adepts. They were in a hurry to achieve a breakthrough and did not want to waste time. If they delayed for too long, their lifespan would come to an end. With Zhou Donghuang's current talent and power of understanding, if he continues like this, even if he enters the late divine transformation stage, his lifespan will not even reach half. If he is not in a rush to leave the Honglio galaxy, he can definitely lead the Lightning Sword sect to the next level and surpass the other sects of the Alliance to stand shoulder to shoulder with the two transcendental forces. Yu Yuqing had high hopes for Zhou Donghuang. In fact, after the Alliance hunt had ended, the various sects of the Alliance had wanted to poach Zhou Donghuang from the Lightning Sword sect so that he could join their sections. This was because they thought highly of Zhou Donghuang's potential. Thank you for the reminder, sect leader. Although he knew that Yu Yuqing was taking such good care of him because of his current talent and power of understanding, Zhou Donghuang still owed him a debt of gratitude. Next, Yu Yuqing and Zhou Donghuang returned to the Autumn Valley. After Zhou Donghuang returned to the Autumn Valley, he destroyed his residence and busied himself with refining the Sky Sun fruit. As for Yu Yuqing, he went to look for the Autumn Valley Het He Jin. To a certain extent, Zhou Donghuang's safety might even affect the future of the Lightning Sword sect, so he had to be careful. Yu Yuqing only left after he informed He Jin of the situation. Elder Dongfang is probably still waiting for Zhou Donghuang's reply. It was not difficult for Yu Yuqing to guess what Elder Dongfang Yu of the Guangling Academy was thinking. He was definitely waiting for Zhou Donghuang to return to the Qi dynasty. This was because he was confident that whatever the Guangling Academy could offer would definitely be more valuable than what the Qi dynasty could offer. However, when Dongfang Yu saw that Yu Yuqing had returned alone, he couldn't help but frown. Could it be that the Qi dynasty had taken out something even better than what the Guangling Academy had taken out? On second thought, he felt that it was unlikely. Elder Dongfang. Yu Yuqing smiled bitterly and said, "The Sky Sun fruit is something that your academy has no way of obtaining. You can go back now. Of course, if Elder Dongfang wishes to stay in the Lightning Sword sect for a period of time, we would welcome you with open arms." He gave the Sky Sun fruit to the Qi dynasty? Dongfang Yu asked in a low voice. No. Yu Yuqing shook his head. The Qi dynasty did not even state their conditions before Zhou Donghuang rejected them outright and left. Yu Yuqing's words caused Dongfang Yu to be shocked. He rejected them without even stating his conditions? At this point he realized that he had misunderstood Zhou Donghuang. He had thought that Zhou Donghuang wanted to compete with the other three parties, but now it seemed that Zhou Donghuang was really unwilling to exchange the Sky Sun fruit. Yu Yuqing nodded. It seems that the Guangling Academy is still quite influential. At least that kid listened to my conditions. After receiving Yu Yuqing's confirmation, Dongfang Yu laughed. Forget it. Since that kid is unwilling, then the Guangling Academy will not part with him. Sect leader Yu, farewell. Hearing that the Qi dynasty did not even have a chance to state their conditions, Dongfang Yu was extremely happy. He was not at all unhappy that he had not helped the Guangling Academy obtain the Sky Sun fruit. In fact, as he left, he still had a smile on his face. It is said that the Guangling Academy and the Qi dynasty are like fire and water. It seems that this is indeed the case. As he personally sent Dongfang Yu off, Yu Yuqing's heart skipped a beat. The 14th prince of the Qi dynasty, Qi Rui, had left the Lightning Sword sect with the Qi dynasty's official, Chu Wei. His expression was still as cold as ever. "Uncle Chu, I can't take this lying down. I think you feel the same way, right? Hearing this, Chu Wei's eagle-like eyes flashed with a cold light. That Zhou Donghuang is indeed a little too arrogant. Uncle Chu, I want him dead. Qi Rui's eyes flashed with a bloodthirsty light. Usually, when he was in the Qi dynasty, he was looked down upon and even ignored by his brothers. After all, they had the same noble bloodline as him and had the aura of the Qi dynasty. Furthermore, their martial arts talent was higher than his, so it was normal for them to look down on him. However, a mere disciple of the Lightning Sword sect, a lowly kid, dared to look down on him and ignore him? He could not take this lying down. 14th Prince. Compared to Qi Rui's irrational rage, Chu Wei was much calmer. You should not have said those words in front of the Lightning Sword sect leader, Yu Yuqing. By saying those words, you have given him and even Zhou Donghuang time to prepare. Some things, if spoken aloud, will only alert the enemy. Chu Wei said. So what if they are prepared? Could it be that Yu Yuqing will still be by Zhou Donghuang's side at all times, and even when Zhou Donghuang goes out, he will still follow him? Qi Rui laughed disdainfully. In the entire Lightning Sword sect, including Yu Yuqing, there are only 2 divine transformation adepts. Even if I threaten Zhou Donghuang in front of Yu Yuqing today, he and the mid-divine transformation adept of the Lightning Sword sect would definitely not be by Zhou Donghuang's side at all times to protect him. If the divine transformation adept of the Lightning Sword sect does not appear, do you think there will be anyone who is a match for you, Uncle Chu? As Qi Rui spoke, his gaze landed on Chu Wei with more confidence. A smile appeared on Chu Wei's face, and it was obvious that he was very pleased with this. 14th Prince, you are right. It is just a mere Lightning Sword sect and I have been too cautious. However, I cannot always wait outside the Lightning Sword sect and keep an eye on Zhou Donghuang. After this, when we return, I will have to ask you to look for the 7th Prince and ask him to order the spies that the Qi dynasty has planted in the Lightning Sword sect to provide us with information about Zhou Donghuang's whereabouts. The Qi dynasty had basically planted spies in all the sects of the Hongliu galaxy to provide them with information about the sects of the Alliance. And now, the person in charge of the spies that the Qi dynasty had planted in the various sects of the Alliance was the 7th Prince of the Qi dynasty. With a single order from him, the spies of the various sects of the Alliance would follow his orders. Alright. I will look for 7th brother when I return. Qi Rui's eyes flashed as he nodded hurriedly. At the same time he looked at Chu Wei. However, I will have to trouble Uncle Chu to take action. No problem. Chu Wei agreed immediately. After spending half a day, Zhou Donghuang finally successfully produced the Sky Sun elixir, which used the Sky Sun fruit as the main ingredient. Who would have thought, who would have thought? It seems like using the inner yuan from the Vermilion Bird Dharma power to produce the elixir is indeed very effective. I can actually produce 5 elixirs. This time, Zhou Donghuang did not produce the Sky Sun elixir in one go. Instead, he produced it in 2 batches. The first time he used the inner yuan from the White Tiger Dharma power to produce the elixir. He felt that the White Tiger Dharma power was the first to break through to the late Dharma stage, and the inner yuan that it contained was also the purest and most concentrated. Using half of the Sky Sun fruit as the main ingredient, along with other herbs, he produced 2 Sky Sun elixirs. There were no surprises, and it was more or less what Zhou Donghuang had expected. The second time he used the inner yuan from the Vermilion Bird Dharma power to produce the elixir. The reason why he did this was because he wanted to test out a theory that he had in mind. If he messed up, he should still be able to produce 1 elixir. In the boundless universe, some beasts or other life forms that were born with the power of fire were more likely to become outstanding alchemists than humans. The effect of their alchemy was often better than that of humans. Because of this, Zhou Donghuang thought of the Vermilion Bird Dharma power in his body. That was one of the 4 mythological beasts, the Vermilion Bird. It was born with a godly fire. If he used the power of its Dharma power to condense the fire to refine pills, would the effects be even better? With this in mind, Zhou Donghuang split the Sky Sun fruit into 2 portions and made the Sky Sun elixir in 2 batches. When the results came out, it proved that his conjecture was correct. Using the true fire of the Vermilion Bird Dharma power to concoct elixirs was indeed more effective than using the true fire of the other Dharma powers to concoct elixirs. Moreover, it was not just a little better. This was the second time Zhou Donghuang used the Vermilion Bird Dharma power to refine the Sky Sun elixir, and he managed to produce 5 elixirs. Compared to the first time he used the White Tiger Dharma power to successfully refine 2 Sky Yang pills, he had 3 more pills. A total of 7 pills were formed. In other words, if he had used the Vermilion Bird Dharma power from the very beginning to refine the Sky Yang elixirs, he might have had a chance to make more than 10 elixirs. Of course, money was hard to buy. Zhou Donghuang was very open-minded about this, so he did not have any regrets. I didn't expect to produce 7 Sky Sun elixirs. This is a pleasant surprise. The potency of 7 Sky Sun elixirs is no weaker than 7 Sky Sun fruits. Zhou Donghuang knew what to do with the 7 Sky Sun elixirs. He would give third senior sister He Mingxi and Donghuang 1 each. It would be useless to give them more. For this type of elixir, the first pill was the most effective, and the second pill would have almost no effect. Chapter 293. Most Dharma adepts consume a Sky Sun elixir and it is enough for their Dharma power to achieve a breakthrough, but I have 4 Dharma powers in my body. If I split the power of 1 Sky Sun elixir among the 4 Dharma powers, it would not make much of a difference. Looking at the 7 Sky Sun elixirs in his hand, Zhou Donghuang's eyes lit up. But, now that I have these Sky Sun elixirs, I can use 4 of them, and each Dharma power can absorb the power of 1 Sky Sun elixir. This way, I can allow the 4 Dharma powers in my body to break through to the ultimate Dharma stage in the shortest time possible. Zhou Donghuang practiced the Lord of the 4 Supremes. In order to enter the primordial soul stage, he had to first break through to the ultimate Dharma stage of the 4 mythical beasts in his body. As long as one of them did not break through to the ultimate Dharma stage, he would not be able to enter the primordial soul stage. Because of this, if Zhou Donghuang wanted to become a primordial soul adept as soon as possible, he had to get the 4 Dharma powers in his body to break through to the ultimate Dharma stage as soon as possible. Donghuang. After the elixirs were formed, Zhou Donghuang went to look for Donghuang and gave him 2 Sky Sun elixirs. These 2 elixirs are Sky Sun elixirs. Either one of them is as effective as the Sky Sun fruit. Donghuang might not know what the Sky Sun pill was, but he knew what the Sky Sun fruit was. Therefore, upon hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, he immediately handed the elixir bottle back to Zhou Donghuang. Little brother, this elixir is too precious. You should use it yourself. It would be a waste to give it to me. There are 2 Sky Sun pills inside, one for you and one for third senior sister. I'll have to ask you to pass third senior sister's pill to him. This pill is similar to the Sky Sun fruit. After consuming 1 pill, there's no point in consuming a second one. Zhou Donghuang did not take the elixir bottle from Donghuang. Don't worry, I still have these elixirs with me. I plan to cultivate in seclusion for a period of time. If there's nothing important, don't disturb me. Tell third senior sister about this as well. With that, Zhou Donghuang returned to his room to practice. He was anxious to let the 4 Dharma powers in his body break through to the ultimate Dharma stage and become an unprecedented ultimate Dharma adept. Once the 4 divine beast Dharma powers broke through to the ultimate Dharma stage, he was confident that he could even kill ordinary primordial soul adepts. Once my 4 divine beast Dharma powers break through to the ultimate Dharma stage, I'll have to make another trip to the Guiyao planet to see if I can gain anything. A few days ago during the Alliance hunt, Zhou Donghuang had discovered that something was amiss with the Guiyao planet and suspected that a powerful demon had been born there. The birthplace of a great demon was usually accompanied by a lot of fortuitous encounters. It would have been fine if he didn't know about this. Since he already knew, it was not Zhou Donghuang's style not to search and find out the truth. In his previous life, although he was quite talented, he had such a low starting point. A large part of the reason why he was able to stand at the peak of the boundless universe 1,000 years later was because he dared to fight and challenge. After Zhou Donghuang went into seclusion, Donghuang went to look for He Mingxi and gave her the Sky Sun elixir. Third senior sister, junior brother said that he will be training in seclusion for a period of time. If there is nothing urgent, do not disturb him. Understood. When He Mingxi found out from Donghuang that the Sky Sun elixir was as potent as the Sky Sun fruit, she was shocked. Using spirit fruits to refine elixirs, using 1 spirit fruit as many spirit fruits. Isn't this an ancient elixir refining method? Junior brother, he even has an advanced elixir refining method that uses the Sky Sun fruit as the main ingredient? Donghuang did not know about this, but that did not mean that He Mingxi did not know about it. Using rare spirit fruits to refine elixirs, using 1 spirit fruit as many spirit fruits, this was clearly the legendary advanced elixir refining method. Could it be that junior brother also gained something from that dream? He Mingxi could not help but think of this. At the same time, she looked at Donghuang with a serious expression. Donghuang, about this Sky Sun elixir, do not mention it to anyone, not even my father. Although He Mingxi trusted her father very much, this was a serious matter. However, this was a matter of great importance. It was better for one less person to know about it. She could imagine. If news of her junior brother possessing such an ancient elixir refining method were to spread, he would definitely become the public enemy of all the adepts in the Hunglio galaxy. This was because such a method was enough to make everyone go crazy. Even if people from other galaxies with more resources were to find out about this, they would also travel across galaxies to look for Zhou Donghuang to steal the method. The seriousness of this matter forced her to be extremely cautious. At the same time she was secretly annoyed. Was this junior brother so careless? Did he not even remind Donghuang not to blabber about this? What he Mingxi did not know was that Zhou Donghuang did not remind Donghuang because he had absolute trust in her and Donghuang. The Qi dynasty was one of the two transcendental forces in the Hunglio galaxy. It was located in a corner of the Hunglio galaxy, and its territory covered more than 10 planets. There were a total of 13 planets. These 13 planets were all planets of the same star, and they orbited that star. Of the 13 planets, the largest one was the capital of the Qi dynasty. The direct descendants of the Qi dynasty as well as the strongest practitioners of the Qi dynasty were all gathered in the capital, and the planet where the capital was located was named Qi King Planet. It was renamed from another planet when the Qi dynasty was first established. Although the 14th prince, Qi Rui, was the son of King Qi, his martial arts talent and power of understanding paled in comparison to the other princes and princesses. Hence he was not valued by King Qi. King Qi had more than 20 children, and he only valued those who were more outstanding. People like Qi Rui were basically transparent in King Qi's eyes, and this caused his position in the Qi dynasty to be very ordinary. King Qi had so many children and naturally they were all born from the same woman. King Qi had one concubine and more than 10 concubines and Qi Rui was born from one of them. However, although Qi Rui's martial talent and comprehension ability were only average, he had an older brother who shared the same father and mother. Among all of King Qi's children in terms of martial talent and comprehension ability, Qi Rui ranked in the top 3. Thus, Qi Rui was highly regarded by King Qi. This brother of Qi Rui was the 7th prince Qi Feng. Qi Feng was only 40 years old, but he was already a mid-primordial soul adept. While he was highly valued by King Qi, he was also responsible for the intelligence of the various sects of the Hunglio Galaxy Alliance. The spies of the various sects of the Hunglio Galaxy Alliance were all in the hands of the 7th prince. Qi Feng looked to be about 30 years old, and his face was as smooth as jade. He had a dignified air about him, and even Qi Rui, the 14th prince, became a little reserved when he approached him. 7th brother. After Qi Rui saw Qi Feng, he was a little hesitant to speak. Although Qi Feng was his biological brother, every time he faced him he felt as though he was facing his father, King Qi. He was stern and unapproachable. Speak. Qi Feng's tone was calm, and he did not sound like an elder brother talking to his younger brother. Instead he sounded more like a superior talking to a subordinate. Qi Rui seemed to be used to this, and he did not show any unusual expression. 7th brother, I have come to look for you this time because I need your help. As he said this, he saw that Qi Feng only looked at him without saying a word, and he hurriedly continued, this time, the various sects of the Alliance are holding an alliance hunt, and I have been ordered to go and monitor it to see if anyone has obtained the Sky Sun fruit. This was because no one from the various sects of the Alliance had been able to obtain the Sky Sun fruit in the Alliance hunt for hundreds of years. Hence, the Qi dynasty had initially placed great importance on this aspect of monitoring, but now, it had become a matter of convenience. Otherwise they would not have sent Qi Rui, the 14th prince of the Qi dynasty who had a very low status. Sending Qi Rui was purely to make up the numbers. This time, someone has really managed to obtain the Sky Sun fruit. At the start, the 7th prince Qi Feng's expression was very calm. However, when Qi Rui said this, his expression finally changed, and a look of shock appeared in his eyes. An Alliance disciple has obtained first place in the Alliance hunt and has accumulated more than 10,000 points? In the Alliance hunt, only those who fulfilled this condition could obtain the Sky Sun fruit. That's right. Qi Rui nodded his head. That person is a disciple of the Lightning Sword sect. He is a one-god mid-dharma adept, and in this Alliance hunt, he has accumulated more than 40,000 points and successfully obtained the Sky Sun fruit. As soon as Qi Rui finished speaking, Qi Rui subconsciously shouted, What did you say? More than 40,000 points. He thought that he had heard wrongly. It was only after Qi Rui confirmed it again and again that he realized that he had not heard wrongly. Furthermore, he had also found out from Qi Rui what had happened. Zhou Donghuang is a Dharma disciple of the Lightning Sword sect. He has trained his Dharma power to the stage of Dharma power control, and that is why he has been able to accumulate so many points in the alliance hunt. Umph. Qi Rui snorted coldly and said with a face full of dissatisfaction. Those people from the various sects of the alliance actually said that Zhou Donghuang is the first Dharma adept in the Honglio galaxy to master Dharma power control. In my opinion, in the history of the Qi dynasty, there must have been Dharma adepts who have mastered Dharma power control. It's just that they have not been recorded in history. The more Qi Rui spoke, the more indignant he became. However, Qi Feng did not give him any face at all. He said calmly, the Qi dynasty has never had a Dharma adept who has mastered Dharma power control. Even the Guangling Academy, which is known to have many more talents than the Qi dynasty, has never had a Dharma adept who has mastered Dharma power control. 26 years old, late Dharma adept who has mastered Dharma power control. When Qi Feng reached the end of his sentence, he was almost muttering to himself. His eyes shone brighter and brighter as he subconsciously clenched his fists. If he could have the help of this person, in the future he would have a greater chance of becoming King Qi. Such an outstanding person, you should have gone to invite him, right? Qi Feng looked at Qi Rui and asked. Yes. Qi Rui nodded his head. At the same time, a look of anger appeared on his face. He is just a kid who doesn't know what's good for him. He directly rejected us. Furthermore, I did not even get to say that the Qi dynasty is willing to pay a price in exchange for the Sky Sun fruit in his hands, but he immediately rejected me. He did not give us any face at all. That kid deserves to die. Chapter 294. Seventh brother, the reason I came to look for you this time is to ask you to contact your spy in the Lightning Sword sect and ask him to keep an eye on Zhou Donghuang's whereabouts. Once we confirm that he has left the Lightning Sword sect, send someone to kill him. Qi Rui said viciously. He did not only look down on me but he also looked down on the Qi dynasty. He deserves to die. Furthermore, he clearly does not want to join the Qi dynasty. Who knows if he is planning to join the Guangling Academy. The Guangling Academy is the Qi dynasty's enemy. The Qi dynasty will definitely not let the Guangling Academy have him. Since the Qi dynasty cannot have him, then we will destroy him. Qi Rui's tone was resolute, as if he had some deep hatred for Zhou Donghuang. However, after listening to Qi Rui's words, Qi Feng's expression remained calm. 14. Did you not treat him with enough sincerity when you invited him and neglected him? True geniuses are arrogant, and they are amenable to persuasion but not coercion. Qi Feng was a genius himself, and he was one of the most outstanding princes of the Qi dynasty. Naturally, he knew how arrogant a genius like Zhou Donghuang of the Lightning Sword sect was. Seventh brother, you were not there at that time. If you had been there, you would have killed him with a single slap. Qi Rui said. Let's put aside the matter of killing him for now. You have not reported this matter to father, have you? Qi Feng asked. No. Qi Rui shook his head. Qi Rui shook his head. Uncle Chu Wei and I just came back. According to him, this matter should be reported to father by seventh brother. He really knows how to behave. Qi Feng smiled lightly. Alright, you don't have to worry about this matter anymore. I will report this to father now, and then I will make a trip to the Lightning Sword sect to personally invite Zhou Donghuang. What if he still refuses? Qi Rui asked. He felt that Zhou Donghuang would never agree to join the Qi dynasty. If he refuses, then just as you said earlier, if you cannot have him, then destroy him to prevent him from becoming a threat in the future. As Qi Feng finished speaking, his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Late at night, under the moonlight, the galaxy teleporter outside the Jihan sect's base welcomed an uninvited guest. It's time to leave. The beautiful young woman in a green dress, after sighing softly, stepped onto the galaxy teleportation array and chose to teleport indiscriminately. Even she didn't know where her destination was for the time being. This woman was none other than Luo Qinghan, a disciple of the Jihan sect. Another indiscriminate teleportation caused Luo Qinghan's thoughts to wander subconsciously. A few years ago, she had been transported to the Ziyun planet because of the indiscriminate teleportation by the galaxy teleporter, where she had formed an ill-fated relationship with the youth named Zhou Donghuang. If Luo Qinghan is in the Lightning Sword sect, make sure she comes back with us. I can take her in as a disciple, and she will enjoy the best treatment in the Jihan sect. Zhou Donghuang's martial arts talent was too dazzling. Now, while Zhou Donghuang had not grown up, she and the Jihan sect could still use Luo Qinghan to get closer to Zhou Donghuang. Once Zhou Donghuang grew up, she and the Jihan sect would not be able to get close to him. Without any hesitation, Meng Yuping brought the Jihan sect elder who had come to report the news out of the Jihan sect and used the galaxy teleporter to teleport to the Tailao planet, outside of the Lightning Sword sect. Then they went directly to the Lightning Sword sect. Luo Qinghan? Hearing that Luo Qinghan had left the Jihan sect, the Lightning Sword sect leader Yu Yuqing could not help but be stunned. He then said to Meng Yuping, "Sect leader Meng, I don't know much about this either. Why don't you let me go to the Autumn Valley and ask Valley Head he?" If Luo Qinghan came to the Lightning Sword sect, she would definitely go to the Autumn Valley because Zhou Donghuang is there. Yu Yuqing said. "Sect leader Yu, if it is convenient, I would like to go with you," Meng Yuping said. Hearing this, Yu Yuqing looked deeply at Meng Yuping, then finally nodded. All right. The Autumn Valley head, He Jin, was also a little confused by Meng Yuping's visit. However, after hearing that Luo Qinghan had left the Jihan sect, he shook his head. She did not come to the Autumn Valley. As for Zhou Donghuang, he has been in seclusion recently, and I did not hear that he brought Luo Qinghan here. Finally, He Jin brought Meng Yuping to Zhou Donghuang's residence. Zhou Donghuang, who had been concentrating on his training, was also startled awake. Did something happen to her? This was the first thing that came out of Zhou Donghuang's mouth when he saw the Jihan sect leader, Meng Yuping. He had never had any dealings with the Jihan sect leader, Meng Yuping. Since she had personally come to look for him, it must have something to do with Luo Qinghan. She did not come to look for you? When Zhou Donghuang had walked out of the room, Meng Yuping's gaze had been fixed on his face, as if she was trying to read something from his face, but in the end she did not see what she wanted to see. No. Zhou Donghuang shook his head and frowned at the same time. What happened to her? She left the Jihan sect, but before she left a letter saying that if there was a chance in the future, she would repay the Jihan sect's kindness in nurturing her. As Meng Yuping spoke, she took out the letter that Luo Qinghan had left and showed it to Zhou Donghuang. Zhou Donghuang glanced at it and kept it. Perhaps she went home. Of course, it is also possible that she did not go home. Do you know where her home is? Meng Yuping asked. Yes. Zhou Donghuang nodded. Then, together with Meng Yuping and He Jin, they made a trip to the Tianshan planet of the Luoha galaxy and went to the Luo family. However, just as Zhou Donghuang had guessed, they did not return to the Luo family. What happened? Whether it was Luo Wuchen, the head of the Luo family, or Luo Qinghan's grandmother, Liu, when they heard that Luo Qinghan had left the Jihan sect and had not been heard from again, their expressions changed completely. When she heard about Zhou Donghuang's stunning performance in the alliance hunt, Liu smiled bitterly. That girl is good at everything, but she is too stubborn. Actually, I could tell from the start that she had feelings for you, Donghuang. Ever since she was young, she has never felt that women were weaker than men. You are too outstanding and she probably does not like you. She probably left the Jihan sect to go somewhere else to see if there is a chance for her to catch up to you. After all, staying in the Honglio galaxy is destined to live in your shadow. If there was anyone in the world who understood Luo Qinghan the best, it would definitely be Liu, her grandmother. Even her father, Luo Wuchen, could not compare. I hope that Qinghan is safe and sound. Luo Wuchen also smiled bitterly as he looked at Meng Yuping and thanked her profusely. Sect leader Meng, you are the sect leader of the Jihan sect. I am truly grateful that you have personally come to look for my daughter. A divine transformation adept had come to the Luoha galaxy, to the Tianshan planet, and to the Luo family for the sake of his daughter. If this news were to spread, it would shake the entire Tianshan planet and even the Luoha galaxy. After all, there were no divine transformation adepts in the Luoha galaxy. You are too kind, sect leader Luo. Meng Yuping smiled slightly. She did not look down on Luo Wuchen just because he was a Dharma adept. Instead, she appeared to be very approachable. If Qinghan ever returns, please let her know and let her return to the Jihan sect. Before she left, I had already planned to take her in as my disciple. It's just that before I could announce it, she had already left the Jihan sect. If she returns, please tell her that as long as she returns to the Jihan sect, we will do our best to nurture her. Chapter 295. Zhou Donghuang ignored Meng Yuping's passionate attitude. In his previous life he had seen too many opportunistic people, and many of them were like Meng Yuping. Why was Meng Yuping so interested in Luo Qinghan? Why was she so polite to Luo Wuchen and Liu? He was well aware of the reason for this. Chief Luo, old Madam Li, I will take my leave now. Before Meng Yuping left, she first bid farewell to Luo Wuchen and Liu, then to Zhou Donghuang and He Jin, who were standing beside them. Only then did she leave and head towards the nearest galaxy teleporter. Because she planned to teleport directly outside the Jihan sect, she did not travel with Zhou Donghuang and He Jin. Chief Luo, old Madam Li, I will take my leave as well. After Meng Yuping left, Zhou Donghuang also said goodbye to the two of them, then left with He Jin under their complicated gazes. Looking at Zhou Donghuang's disappearing figure, Luo Wuqian sighed. I still prefer him calling me father-in-law. I don't know how you raised your daughter. She rejected such a good husband and is still trying to be brave. When he has so many wives and concubines, let's see if she regrets it. Liu snorted coldly as she glared at Luo Wuqian. Luo Wuqian was speechless. Mother-in-law Qinghan grew up with you. You could say that she was taught by you, right? How can you blame it on me? Of course, Luo Wuqian only dared to say these words in his heart, not out loud. Regardless of seniority, he was no match for Liu in terms of ability. Although he had already reached the ultimate Dharma stage, his mother-in-law, Liu, had already reached the primordial soul stage, becoming the first primordial soul adept of the Tianshan planet in 1,000 years. Of course, he was the only one who knew about this. /B, Valley Head. On the way to the galaxy teleporter, Zhou Donghuang could not help but ask He Jin, Valley Head, tell me, what does it mean to like a woman and what does it mean to fall in love with a woman? In his opinion, since He Jin had a biological daughter like his third senior sister, even though his wife had passed away, he must have had experience in this area. Unlike him who had no experience in this area, he was completely lost. What does it mean to like a woman? Falling in love with a woman? U001F. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, He Jin's eyes narrowed. Liking a woman and falling in love with a woman are two completely different concepts. Liking can be a simple liking, but it can also be liking because you want to possess her, or it can even be liking because you want to turn it into love. As for love, this concept is somewhat difficult to express. When two people fall in love, perhaps it's the state where they're ready to stay together for the rest of their lives and neither of them can leave the other. He Jin said. What about you and third sister's mother? Zhou Donghuang asked. Instantly, he felt an inexplicable anger rise in him and his expression changed. He could not control it at all. When he regained his composure, his expression gradually returned to normal. He Jin saw his expression and at the same time he sighed to himself. It looks like that girl Mingxi really has no chance. Although Zhou Donghuang treated He Mingxi as a senior, and He Mingxi treated Zhou Donghuang as a junior, and neither had any ulterior motives, as He Mingxi's father He Jin had thought of finding an opportunity to matchmake the two of them. He could see that Zhou Donghuang was a dragon, who would one day soar into the sky. If his daughter could get hold of him, she would definitely follow suit in the future. Of course, although he had thought of matchmaking them, he had never thought of forcing it. Not to mention anything else, just based on Zhou Donghuang's personality, even if his daughter was only Zhou Donghuang's senior, Zhou Donghuang would definitely not mistreat his daughter in the future. The last time before the alliance hunt outside the Guiyao planet, Zhou Donghuang had stood up and said that Luo Qinghan was his woman, and He Jin had basically given up on matchmaking Zhou Donghuang with his daughter. Now, it could be said that he had completely given up on that idea. Looking at your expression just now, were you imagining what I said just now? He Jin asked, wanting to confirm it further. Zhou Donghuang nodded. He Jin nodded as well. From your expression just now, I can tell that you either like her, or you are possessive and will not allow any man to touch her. Either way, it shows that you care about her. Now, let me ask you the second question. If she is in danger, the kind where her life is in danger, and even if you intervene you will most likely die, will you choose to ignore it or will you save her? He Jin asked again. Zhou Donghuang imagined it again. His rationality told him that in that kind of situation, choosing to turn a blind eye and protect himself before taking revenge afterwards was the correct choice. However, as long as he thought about it, he would only have a slim chance of survival if he had acted, and it was not certain that he would have died. There was still a chance of saving Luo Qinghan. In such a situation he could not choose to ignore it. Even if he had the rationality of 1,000 years in his previous life, he could not do it. I will intervene. When Zhou Donghuang responded to He Jin again, his voice was slightly raspy. He Jin nodded again. Your answer to this question is enough to show that you care about her very much, to the point that you are willing to risk your life for her. Cherish it. He Jin advised him before continuing. The second question, if it was just an independent question, you would probably intervene even if it was Mingxi, much less Luo Qinghan. But the second question combined with the first question is different. At least, if you saw Mingxi being intimate with another man, you would not be angry, right? I don't know what happened between you and Luo Qinghan, but based on the current situation you care about her very much. Perhaps even you do not realize it, but she already has a certain place in your heart, and it is irreplaceable. Cherish it, don't miss it. After He Jin said this, Zhou Donghuang remained silent, but he had already made up his mind. Perhaps I really made a mistake previously. She has distanced herself from me, and what I need to do is not to cooperate with her, but to find a way to get close to her. I hope that nothing bad will happen to her this time. Zhou Donghuang had just returned to the Lightning Sword sect, returned to the Autumn Valley, and was about to return to his residence to practice when he was called out by He Jin once again. Zhou Donghuang, the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty, Qi Feng, arrived not long after we left, and he has been waiting for you. I just heard from the elders in the valley about this, and the sect leader asked the elders to tell me that I must personally bring you to meet him, and then to meet the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty. He Jin explained the reason for his visit. Someone from the Qi dynasty again? Zhou Donghuang frowned. Didn't the 14th prince come the last time? Now, I have already consumed the Sky Sun fruit and I cannot go to the Qi dynasty. Can the sect leader directly reject him on my behalf? He Jin smiled bitterly. Zhou Donghuang, come with me. This time, the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty and the 14th prince of the Qi dynasty who came the last time are siblings, but their positions in the Qi dynasty are worlds apart. If King Qi had a choice, he would rather give up 10 14th princes than give up on the 7th prince. Chapter 296. Zhou Donghuang was naturally not interested in meeting the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty. However, in the end, in order not to put He Jin in a difficult position, he still followed He Jin to meet the Lightning Sword sect leader, Yu Yuqing. Zhou Donghuang, although this person from the Qi dynasty is a brother from the same mother as the previous one, their status in the Qi dynasty is worlds apart. Therefore, if he wishes to see you, I will not be able to reject him. Yu Yuqing smiled bitterly. Of course, regardless of whether he wants you to go to the Qi dynasty or if he wants your Sky Sun fruit, you can reject him. All you have to do is meet him. This is also. Before Yu Yuqing could finish, Zhou Donghuang interrupted him. Sect leader, bring me there directly. I am in a hurry to go back and train. All right. Hearing the impatience in Zhou Donghuang's voice, Yu Yuqing felt a little helpless. If it was the 14th prince of the Qi dynasty, he would definitely reject him on Zhou Donghuang's behalf. However, this time, it was the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty. The 7th prince of the Qi dynasty had a status in the Qi dynasty that was no less than that of the Guangling Academy elder from the Dongfang Academy. 7th prince, this is Zhou Donghuang, a disciple of the Lightning Sword sect. Zhou Donghuang, this is the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty, Prince Qi Feng. Yu Yuqing brought Zhou Donghuang to meet the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty and introduced him to the two of them. Zhou Donghuang glanced at Qi Feng and realized that this 7th prince, who had a high status in the Qi dynasty, was much more humble than the 14th prince, who had a low status in the Qi dynasty. When Zhou Donghuang looked at Qi Feng, his face was filled with a warm smile, as if he was bathing in the spring breeze, unlike the 14th prince, who had an overbearing air. Behind Qi Feng there was another old man. This old man was skinny, and when he stood next to the tall Qi Feng, he did not seem to exist. However, as the old man stood there with his eyes closed, he gave off an unfathomable aura. Zhou Donghuang was almost certain that this old man was a divine transformation adept. And this is the 8th elder of the Qi dynasty, Elder Qi Yuankai. Yu Yuqing continued to introduce the old man behind Qi Feng. The old man opened his eyes at the right time, and his fiery gaze landed on Zhou Donghuang. If it had been any other Dharma adept, he might have been frightened by this sharp gaze, but Zhou Donghuang did not move, and his expression was as calm as ever. Elder Qi Yuankai is also a soul formation cultivator. As he spoke, Yu Yuqing mentioned the old man's level of practice, and it was just as Zhou Donghuang had guessed. Yes. However, in the face of a divine transformation adept, Zhou Donghuang still had a calm expression, as if he would be able to maintain his composure even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. This also caused the old man, Qi Yuankai, to look a little surprised. If you have something to say, just say it. I'm in a hurry to go back and cultivate, said Zhou Donghuang as he glanced at Qi Feng. He did not put on any airs just because Qi Feng was the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty. In his previous life, Zhou Donghuang had dominated the universe for thousands of years. Not to mention the princes of the dynasties in the Hengliu galaxy, even the princes of the dynasties in the top galaxies could not make him bow down to them. Brother Donghuang is indeed obsessed with cultivation. It's no wonder that you have such a high level of practice at such a young age. If the 14th prince of the Qi dynasty, Qi Rui, was present, seeing Zhou Donghuang's attitude, he would definitely have flown into a rage. However, the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty, Qi Feng, was still smiling brightly. Brother Donghuang, this time, I have come on orders from my father to personally invite you to the Qi dynasty. Qi Feng did not beat around the bush as he said, my father has said that as long as you are willing to go to the Qi dynasty, you will be able to enjoy the same treatment as the most outstanding disciples of the Qi dynasty. The Qi dynasty will do their best to nurture you and will not neglect you just because your surname is not Qi. Furthermore, my father has personally said that he is willing to accept you as his godson. The first part of Qi Feng's words was still acceptable, and Yu Yuqing did not seem surprised. However, the latter part of his words shocked Yu Yuqing. The number one figure of the Qi dynasty, King Qi, had actually personally said that he was willing to accept Zhou Donghuang as his godson? Who was King Qi? He was a figure who stood at the pinnacle of the Honglio galaxy and was one of the two most powerful people in the galaxy. Such a figure had actually said that he wanted to accept Zhou Donghuang as his godson? If Zhou Donghuang had already grown up and was strong enough to hold his own in the Honglio galaxy, that would not be a problem. However, the problem was that although Zhou Donghuang had displayed exceptional talent, he had not yet grown up. As he secretly gasped, Yu Yuqing subconsciously looked at Zhou Donghuang, his eyes filled with unease. He knew that if he were Zhou Donghuang, he would definitely be tempted by Qi Feng's words. If he became the godson of the number one figure of the Qi dynasty, not only would he be able to do whatever he wanted in the Honglio galaxy, he would also receive the full support of the Qi dynasty. He would be able to enjoy the best training resources and environment. Now he was really worried that Zhou Donghuang would be tempted away. However, in the next moment as Zhou Donghuang spoke, he completely relaxed. At the same time, his heart was filled with shock. He even felt that he had lived for so long, but his understanding was still not as good as that of a young man in his 20s. Even if your current King Qi is not bad, as long as you give me 10 years, I, Zhou Donghuang, will be able to surpass him. Zhou Donghuang spoke once again, clearly disdainful of the position of King Qi of the Qi household. Such arrogance. The old man behind Qi Feng, Qi Yuankai, was once again angered to the point where his blood boiled. Finally, it was Qi Feng who shook his head slightly, calming his anger. Brother Donghuang, you have great ambitions and are worthy of respect. However, great ambitions do not mean that you will be able to achieve them. However, I will still wait and see. The smile on Qi Feng's face was almost non-existent, and after saying this to Zhou Donghuang, he bade farewell to Yu Yuqing and left with the old man behind him. As for Yu Yuqing, he finally recovered from the shock that Zhou Donghuang's words had brought him. Surpassing the current King Qi in 10 years? This was too much of a boast, wasn't it? This was the only thought in Yu Yuqing's mind. Although Zhou Donghuang's martial talent was extraordinary in the Honglio galaxy, even so, it was impossible for him to surpass the current King Qi's power in 10 years. King Qi was one of the two most powerful beings in the Honglio galaxy, and he was at least at the late divine transformation stage, the kind that was infinitely close to the ultimate divine transformation stage. There was even a rumor going around, whether it was King Qi of the Qi dynasty or the dean of the Guangling Academy, they were both at the ultimate divine transformation stage, but they did not reveal their powers in front of others, so everyone thought that they were only late divine transformation adepts. Of course, this was a rumor after all, and the truth could not be confirmed. Farewell, sect leader. As Zhou Donghuang bade farewell to Yu Yuqing and returned to the Autumn Valley, the two men from the Qi dynasty had already left the Lightning Sword sect's base and arrived at the nearby galaxy teleporter. Seventh Prince, that rascal is too presumptuous. He's just a young lad, and he dares to say that he will surpass King Qi in 10 years' time. This is an insult to King Qi's authority. Qi Yuankai said angrily, you should not have stopped me from attacking him. Attack him? Qi Feng turned to look at Qi Yuankai. Eighth Elder, are you confident that you can defeat Yu Yuqing? Hearing this, Qi Yuankai was first taken aback and then he shook his head. Chapter 297. Although Qi Yuankai was an early divine transformation adept, his ability could only be considered average among early divine transformation adepts. Yu Yuqing was the leader of the Lightning Sword sect. Although he was also an early divine transformation adept, as the leader of one of the top sects in the Honglio galaxy, he would definitely have some trump cards that the Lightning Sword sect had passed down. If he really fought, he had no confidence at all. In fact, even he felt that he was more likely to lose. Since Eighth Elder has no confidence in defeating Yu Yuqing, I'm afraid you won't be able to hurt Zhou Donghuang, who has Yu Yuqing's protection. Qi Feng said. Isn't there still you, Seventh Prince? Qi Yuankai said. Me? Qi Feng shook his head. Eighth Elder, when we left just now there was someone standing outside the door. Did you notice? Yes. Qi Yuankai nodded. A middle-aged man who looked ordinary. Ordinary? Qifeng smiled. Eighth Elder, if I'm not wrong, that man was the Autumn Valley head of the Lightning Sword sect, He Jin, one of the strongest primordial soul adepts in the sect. And Zhou Donghuang is a disciple of his Autumn Valley. The Valley head actually personally accompanied the leader of the Lightning Sword sect to send Zhou Donghuang here. Qi Yuankai frowned. Not to mention anything else, Zhou Donghuang's achievements at such a young age are unprecedented in the Honglio Galaxy. If we only talk about the primordial soul adepts in the history of the Honglio Galaxy, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he is the most talented person in the history of the Honglio Galaxy. Qifeng was obviously not surprised. It's normal for the Lightning Sword sect to value such a rare talent. Not only did he reject 7th Prince, but he also blasphemed King Qi. Are we just going to let this matter go? Qi Yuankai frowned, his eyes filled with indignation. The moment he rejected me, he was already a dead man. Qifeng's tone was calm, as if he was talking about something unimportant. Eighth Elder, after we return this time, it will not be long before Zhou Donghuang will no longer exist in the Honglio Galaxy, or even the boundless universe. Hearing this, Qi Yuankai's eyes lit up. Do you need me to do it personally? He naturally understood the meaning behind Qifeng's words. Why use a sledgehammer to kill a chicken? Qifeng said plainly, no matter how talented he is still just a Dharma adept. He is not worthy of the divine transformation adepts of the Qi dynasty. In front of Zhou Donghuang, Qifeng had always been amiable. And now, as he spoke calmly, it was as if he had already awakened to Zhou Donghuang's fate. 7th Prince is right. Qi Yuankai smiled. He is indeed not worthy of me personally dealing with him. To Zhou Donghuang, the arrival of the 7th Prince of the Qi dynasty, Qifeng, was just a small interlude that did not affect him much. After returning to his residence in the Autumn Valley, he continued to cultivate and digest the power of the Sky Sun Elixir. Now he had already consumed 3 Sky Sun Elixirs to boost his Green Dragon Dharma power, White Tiger Dharma power, and Vermilion Bird Dharma power, which had already entered the late Dharma stage. However, while he was boosting his 3 Dharma powers, the effects of the 3 Sky Sun Elixirs had also seeped into the Black Tortoise Dharma power, which had yet to enter the late Dharma stage. Thus, the Black Tortoise Dharma power had also successfully entered the late Dharma stage 2 days ago. It feels like they are sharing the power of the Sky Sun Elixir? After cultivating for a few more days, Zhou Donghuang gradually realized this. He did not hold back any longer and consumed the remaining Sky Sun Elixir to help the 4 Dharma powers cultivate. During this process, he could also clearly feel that the 4 Divine Beast Dharma powers had already absorbed the medicinal power of the Sky Sun Elixir to a certain point. After absorbing the medicinal power of the 4 Sky Sun Elixirs, consuming another Sky Sun Elixir wouldn't be of any help to them. 1 Dharma power corresponds to 1 Sky Sun Elixir, Zhou Donghuang thought. Initially, Zhou Donghuang was still thinking that since the Sky Sun Elixirs could be shared by the 4 Dharma powers, he could consume all the Sky Sun Elixirs he had and let them absorb them. That way his level of practice would definitely increase even more. However, the truth was that he had been thinking too much. Even though the 4 Divine Beast Dharma powers could share the power of the Sky Sun Pill, the power of the Sky Sun Pill that was distributed to each Dharma power could only be the power of 1 complete Sky Sun Pill. They could not absorb any more. Forget it. Even so, it is enough for my 4 Dharma powers to break through to the ultimate Dharma stage in a short period of time. The 4 Dharma powers had all broken through to the ultimate Dharma stage. Coupled with the divine will that only primordial soul adepts could form, Zhou Donghuang was confident that he could kill as many adepts below the primordial soul stage as he pleased. He would not even have to worry about running out of energy. With 1 Dharma power attacking, the other 3 would constantly absorb the spirit energy in the surroundings to recover. With this cycle, it was basically impossible for them to run out of energy, unless they attacked in a specific area where there was no spirit energy. Thinking about the scene of the 4 Dharma powers breaking through to the ultimate Dharma stage, even with Zhou Donghuang's 1,000 years of memories, he could not help but feel excited and expectant. In his previous life, when he had reached the ultimate Dharma stage, the geniuses of the big sects and big clans had been able to crush him at the same level of training. An outsider had intruded into the Lightning Sword sect, and although it seemed like he was only there to look for Zhou Donghuang, no one knew whether this was a blessing or a curse. If it was a disaster, then with his warning, the Lightning Sword sect would be able to avoid many losses. Perhaps he would even be granted special entry into the inner sect, or even receive a reward that was worth far more than a premium spirit stone. When the outer sect disciple regained his senses, he realized that the white-haired young man had already disappeared. He hurriedly rushed back to the outer sect and reported the matter to an outer sect elder. What? An outsider intruded? And he went to the Autumn Valley to look for Zhou Donghuang? The outer sect elder also realized the seriousness of the matter and did not dare to hesitate. He hurriedly went to the residence of the Lightning Sword sect leader to report the matter. Anyone who could intrude into the Lightning Sword sect without being discovered would not be simple. This was because there were at least 3 late primordial soul adepts among the patrolling elders of the Lightning Sword sect every day. Otherwise they would be patrolling in 3 directions. Furthermore, the various formations that the Lightning Sword sect had set up were very mysterious. Even ultimate primordial soul adepts might not have the ability to intrude into the Lightning Sword sect without being detected. At the same time, the Autumn Valley. Zhou Donghuang. When Zhou Donghuang was startled awake by the noise coming from outside the door, he was in the midst of further refining the 4 divine beast Dharma powers that had all broken through to the ultimate Dharma stage. He was certain that he had never heard the noise coming from outside before. However, when he heard the person call him, he leaped off his bed and pushed the door open. When he reached the courtyard, he saw a young man already standing there. The young man had a head of white hair that flowed down his back like a waterfall. He had a pair of straight white eyebrows and his face was cold and handsome. He looked like someone of the same age. You are? Zhou Donghuang's expression became serious, and he could not help but reveal a look of fear in his eyes as he looked at the young man in front of him. /B Although the young man in front of him looked like an ordinary person, Zhou Donghuang's divine will was using a secret divine will technique. Without alerting the other party, it was difficult for him to get within 3 meters of the other party. He was completely blocked out. What did this mean? Only someone whose divine will surpass the person using the secret divine will technique by an entire stage could do this. Now Zhou Donghuang was 100% sure. Based on the strength of the other party's soul, he was at least an early divine transformation adept. Chapter 298. Guangling Academy. Lu Pingxing. The white-haired youth stared at Zhou Donghuang with a heated gaze. Without any warning, he lifted his hand and a powerful inner yuan swept out towards Zhou Donghuang. Zhou Donghuang did not expect his opponent to attack without any warning, and his face darkened. However, when he realized that his opponent was controlling his strength, a glint of light flashed in his eyes. Then the White Tiger Dharma power appeared on his body. It was the first time the White Tiger Dharma power had appeared. This was the first time Zhou Donghuang's White Tiger Dharma power had made a move after breaking through to the ultimate Dharma stage. Roar! The White Tiger Dharma power roared and struck out with its claws. It was as if it carried with it an invincible force, directly destroying Lu Pingxing's inner yuan. The entire process was as easy as crushing dry weeds. You've actually broken through? Lu Pingxing's voice was filled with surprise, and his gaze became heated. At the same time he attacked again, and an even more powerful inner yuan howled out towards the White Tiger Dharma power. Then the inner yuan turned into a rope in midair, intending to bind the White Tiger Dharma power. After the inner yuan turned into a rope, its speed was very fast. In the blink of an eye, it had circled the White Tiger Dharma power once and was about to bind it. At this moment, with a thought from Zhou Donghuang, the White Tiger Dharma power turned into a ray of light, like a shooting star in the night sky. In a flash, it had successfully escaped the binds of the inner yuan rope. It really is Dharma power control. Lu Pingxing exclaimed. At the same time he dispersed the inner yuan that he had released. The inner yuan that had turned into a rope disappeared without a trace, as if it had never been there. Seeing that his opponent had stopped, Zhou Donghuang also withdrew his White Tiger Dharma power. At the same time, he frowned slightly and looked at his opponent impatiently. If you are here to persuade me to enter the Guangling Academy, I'm afraid you have come for nothing. As for the Sky Sun fruit, I have already consumed it. Otherwise, I would not have been able to enter the ultimate Dharma stage in such a short period of time. Just now, when his opponent had attacked, although he had suppressed his inner yuan, with Zhou Donghuang's experience, it was not difficult to see. This Lu Pingxing was a late divine transformation adept. If that wasn't the case, he wouldn't have bothered to say so much to the other party. Based on the level of practice of the person in front of him, if he really wanted to kill him, even the most powerful mid-divine transformation elder in the entire Lightning Sword sect would not be able to save him. Hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, Lu Pingxing's expression did not change. I am not here to persuade you to enter the Guangling Academy, nor do I want you to hand over the Sky Sun fruit. No one can compare to him. Even the dean of the Guangling Academy is very respectful to him, treating him as a teacher and a father. In just a few words, He Jin had revealed Lu Pingxing's background to Zhou Donghuang. Zhou Donghuang was slightly shocked. He had not expected Lu Pingxing to have such a powerful background. Could be said that he stood at the peak of the Hongliu galaxy. Furthermore, the dean of the Guangling Academy respected him as a teacher and a father? As far as he knew, the dean of the Guangling Academy was considered to have a high status among the various forces in the Hongliu galaxy. This seemingly young white-haired youth was respected as a teacher and a father by the dean of the Guangling Academy. Didn't that mean that his status was even higher? Zhou Donghuang. At the same time, a hurried voice came from the skies above the Autumn Valley. Following this, two figures flew into the Autumn Valley and arrived at Zhou Donghuang's residence in the blink of an eye. One of them was the Lightning Sword sect leader, Yu Yuqing. As for the other person, he was an old man with white hair and brows. Although he looked old, his eyes were bright and full of energy. Even the average young person might not have this kind of energy. At this moment, Yu Yuqing was following behind the old man. Senior uncle. Seeing the old man, He Jin hurriedly stepped forward and bowed respectfully. At the same time, he greeted the Lightning Sword sect leader, Yu Yuqing. Zhou Donghuang's gaze also subconsciously fell on the old man, and he could vaguely guess his identity. This old man was most likely the mid-divine transformation adept of the Lightning Sword sect, the most powerful person in the Lightning Sword sect. Who are you? Why have you trespassed into the Lightning Sword sect? Because Lu Pingxing's back was facing Yu Yuqing and the old man who had just arrived, neither Yu Yuqing nor the old man in front of him could see Lu Pingxing's true appearance. They all looked at him with unfriendly gazes. Just as He Jin was giving Yu Yuqing a look, and Yu Yuqing did not have time to react, Lu Pingxing spoke. His tone was as calm as before. Even when Yu Tsang was still around, he did not dare to question me like this. Yu Tsang really has a good disciple. Yu Tsang. The Lightning Sword sect's previous leader was also Yu Yuqing's senior uncle. In fact, Yu Yuqing was an orphan that Yu Tsang had brought back from his travels. Later, he became the disciple of one of Yu Tsang's disciples and became Yu Tsang's disciple. Yu Tsang had already left the Hongliu galaxy many years ago to pursue the separating divinity stage. Now, hearing the person in front of him call out his senior uncle's name and say that even his own senior uncle would not dare to question him like this, Yu Yuqing's expression instantly turned serious. When he spoke again, there was a tinge of fear in his tone. Sir, you are. It was as if an adult had come up to him and asked him, "Do you believe that a 3-year-old child can lift a heavy object?" At least, I have never heard of a Dharma adept who has trained their Dharma power to a level that surpasses Dharma power control. This was Zhou Donghuang's reply to Lu Pingxing. Lu Pingxing was not surprised by Zhou Donghuang's reply. That is because, in the recorded history of the boundless universe, there has never been a Dharma adept who has been able to take that most crucial step. For example, the Dharma adepts of the Hongliu galaxy are usually unable to master Dharma power control due to their innate talent and lack of training resources. In contrast, in those galaxies that are rich in resources, although there are Dharma adepts who have mastered Dharma power control, they usually do not have much time to delve into the deeper mysteries of Dharma power. Of course, there are countless galaxies in the boundless universe. There are definitely many Dharma adepts who have mastered Dharma power control and still want to improve their Dharma power. However, after they have wasted a period of time, they will either doubt themselves and rush to enter the divine transformation stage, or their elders will not want them to continue down the wrong path and force them to enter the divine transformation stage. Lu Pingxing paused and looked at Zhou Donghuang. What do you think of some Dharma adepts' obsession with training their Dharma power beyond Dharma power control? I don't agree. Zhou Donghuang shook his head. Since there has never been a Dharma adept who has been able to take that step in the recorded history of the boundless universe, it is still unknown whether or not that step can be taken. If there is a goal, then there is still something to work towards. If there is no goal, it is very difficult to take the next step. Not only is it difficult to break through, but it is also a huge test of one's mentality. At least, even though Zhou Donghuang had 1,000 years of memories from his previous life, he had never heard of anyone who could train their Dharma power to a level that surpassed Dharma power control. Dharma power control was already the publicly acknowledged limit of Dharma power that could be trained to Dharma power. You are very clear about this. Lu Pingxing's eyes flashed and he sighed. And the facts have proven that this is indeed the case. Let me ask you a question. As a Dharma adept, if you knew that training your Dharma power to the extreme was not Dharma power control, but something even more profound, what would you do? Just like you right now. Without waiting for Zhou Donghuang's reply, Lu Pingxing added. Furthermore, if you know that in the Dharma stage, if you can master a technique that surpasses Dharma power control, you will be able to build a strong foundation for yourself. No matter how poor your training method is, no matter how poor your foundation is, you will still have 100% chance of entering the deity's tribulation stage. What would you do? Originally, Zhou Donghuang had only wanted to say that he would do what he could and not let the technique after Dharma power control slow down his progress and affect his future training. However, when he heard Lu Pingxing's last sentence, he was stunned. In the Dharma stage, if he could master a technique that surpassed Dharma power control, no matter how poor his training method was, he would still have 100% chance of entering the deity's tribulation stage? Was this possible? If this was really possible, it could indeed be called a strong foundation. But was this possible? This was too unrealistic, wasn't it? What are you trying to say? Zhou Donghuang looked at Lu Pingxing with a serious expression. He could tell that there was a hidden meaning in Lu Pingxing's words. Lu Pingxing sighed. 1,000 years ago, when I was still a Dharma adept, I accidentally entered a place where an ancient person had died. There, I did not obtain any treasures. His space ring had long been taken away by someone, and all that was left was a small booklet that recorded his years. At the end of every year, he would leave his years in the booklet. In the booklet, he described his life ever since he could remember. It was also at that time that I found out that in ancient times, there were many talented humans who were able to train their Dharma power to the stage of divine Dharma power. Divine Dharma power is a technique that Dharma adepts can master that surpasses Dharma power control. As Lu Pingxing spoke to this point, his expression became complicated. When I left that place, I accidentally triggered a formation and was completely destroyed, but that booklet was brought out by me. That booklet, no one believed that it was real. Only I, who had been to that place, could confirm through the corpse that the ancient person had left behind that he was indeed someone from a long, long time ago, someone from ancient times before history was cut off. But no one believed what I said, let alone that the pamphlet was a prank. Even though they did not believe it, I, who had personally experienced it, had no choice but to believe it. Furthermore, at that time, I was still an ultimate Dharma adept who had trained his Dharma power to the stage of Dharma power control. You can imagine, after experiencing all that, my desire to master the technique of divine Dharma power, which was above Dharma power control. In my sect, I was originally one of the best of the younger generation. However, because of this obsession, I stayed in the ultimate Dharma stage for more than 500 years. Just before I was about to die, I finally entered the primordial soul stage. At that time, those of the same generation as me, those who were not as good as me in the past, had basically all entered the divine transformation stage. A few of the more outstanding ones had even entered the separating divinity stage. Chapter 300. Of course, I do not regret it. If not for the fact that my lifespan had come to an end, I would not have broken through to the primordial soul stage, because that would have meant that my hundreds of years of perseverance would have been wasted. At this point, Lu Pingxing's tone changed, and there was a tinge of unwillingness in his voice. You can imagine how I felt at that time. Hundreds of years of perseverance, all for nothing, and those who were not as good as me in the past were now far more powerful than me. At that time, I chose to leave the sect. After that, when I was traveling, I met two people. They were from the Honglio galaxy. One was from the Qi dynasty, and the other was from the Guangling Academy. The three of us traveled together for a long time, until the three of us were ambushed, and the two of them risked their lives to protect me as I escaped. That was how I managed to survive. Lu Pingxing sighed, and his eyes revealed a tinge of nostalgia. I had known them for many years, and I knew that although they were outside, they were worried about their descendants in the Honglio galaxy. So, after I avenged them, I came to the Honglio galaxy, intending to protect their descendants for 1,000 years before leaving. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. I had already planned to leave the Honglio galaxy in a few days to look for Dharma adepts who were talented and intelligent, and who had mastered Dharma power control. I wanted to impart my knowledge to them and see if anyone could fulfill my unfulfilled wish. I did not expect to hear about you just as I was preparing to leave. At this point, Lu Pingxing looked at Zhou Donghuang with a tinge of surprise in his eyes. To be honest, after hearing about your performance in the Alliance hunt and your achievements at such a young age, I was very surprised. Not to mention the Honglio galaxy, even in the galaxy where my sect was located, which was many times richer than the Honglio galaxy, there are very few young geniuses as talented as you. Furthermore, they grew up in that galaxy from a young age, and the training resources that they enjoyed were not something that you could compare to. It is also because of this that I see potential in you. Now you should have guessed why I came to find you. Lu Pingxing asked. As for Zhou Donghuang, halfway through Lu Pingxing's explanation, he was already extremely shocked. If what Lu Pingxing said was true, then he was definitely not just a late divine transformation adept. In fact, he could not even be an ultimate divine transformation adept. At the very least, he was a dividing divinity adept that was above divine transformation adepts. 1,000 years ago, before he reached the end of his lifespan, he stepped into the primordial soul realm, which meant that he was already close to 600 years old. Furthermore, later on, he had accompanied the people of the Qi dynasty and the Guangling Academy who had left the Honglio galaxy for a period of time. This meant that 1,000 years ago he was already more than 600 years old, or perhaps even older. The maximum lifespan of a soul formation cultivator was 1,500 years. Unless he cultivated a technique like the technique of everlasting youth, but that was basically impossible. That was because in his previous life, he had never heard of a technique other than the technique of everlasting youth that could extend one's lifespan. You came to me because you want to impart your understanding of the past to me so that I can continue to refine my Dharma power and see if I can master the technique of devouring Dharma power? It was not difficult for Zhou Donghuang to guess what Lu Pingxing was thinking. That's right. Lu Pingxing nodded. From now on, I will stay in the Lightning Sword sect for a period of time, until I have personally imparted to you everything that I have learned over the past few hundred years. Only then will I leave. Hearing Lu Pingxing's words, even though Zhou Donghuang's heart was as calm as still water, he could not help but inwardly gasp. In fact, when Lu Pingxing had said that if he could master the technique of devouring Dharma, no matter how poor the technique was, he would still have 100% chance of entering the deity's tribulation stage, he had already been tempted. The Lord of the Four Supremes that he was currently cultivating could only allow him to cultivate to the primordial soul stage at most. There was no further cultivation technique that he could cultivate. If he wanted to continue cultivating, he would have to create a follow-up cultivation technique. And this path, even for someone like him who had 1,000 years of memories, was extremely difficult. And if the divine Dharma power was really that incredible, once he mastered it, he would not need to create a new technique at all. He would be able to use the divine Dharma power to train all the way to the deity's tribulation stage. I want to confirm something, Zhou Donghuang said bluntly. Once I train my Dharma power to the point of mastering the divine Dharma power, no matter how poor the technique is, I will still be able to enter the deity's tribulation stage? For example, the technique that I am practicing now can only be trained to the primordial soul stage at most, and there is no follow-up technique. Under the circumstances that I do not change to another technique, once I master the divine Dharma power, I will also be able to enter the deity's tribulation stage? Faced with Zhou Donghuang's question, Lu Pingxing looked at him in surprise. The technique that you are practicing can only be trained to the primordial soul stage? Yes. Zhou Donghuang nodded. That is really a coincidence. Lu Pingxing shook his head and smiled. Coincidence. Zhou Donghuang was a little confused. He did not know what Lu Pingxing meant. Did you know that in ancient times, even the best techniques that humans practiced could only be trained to the primordial soul stage? Lu Pingxing sighed. This I learned from the booklet that the ancient people left behind. However, even so, the best of the ancient people were still able to enter the deity's tribulation stage. This was because when they were at the Dharma stage they could train their Dharma power to the point of mastering the divine Dharma power. With the divine Dharma power technique, even if they entered the primordial soul stage, they could still form a primordial soul Dharma power and devour the heavens and the earth. They could forcefully absorb the spirit energy from the heavens and the earth, and they could even use spirit stones and spirit crystals to train. After they entered the primordial soul stage, their training method was very straightforward. They relied on the divine Dharma power to aid their training. Even if the average Dharma adept mastered Dharma power control, when they entered the primordial soul stage, their Dharma power technique would not be of any use, and they would not be able to form another Dharma power. However, Dharma adepts who mastered the divine Dharma power, even if they entered the primordial soul stage, could use their primordial soul as a foundation to form another Dharma power. This type of Dharma power is also known as the primordial soul Dharma power. At this point, Lu Pingxing paused for a while before continuing. In the past, when I first found out about this, I was also extremely shocked. I never imagined that the best training method in the ancient times could only be used to train up to the primordial soul stage. In the ancient times, a technique that could be used to train up to the ultimate primordial soul stage was already the best technique, and it was as rare as a phoenix feather or a unicorn horn. Furthermore, the techniques that could be used to train up to the primordial soul stage in the ancient times were different from the techniques that can only be used to train up to the primordial soul stage in our era. Even for those who practice the deity's tribulation techniques in our era, when they are at the primordial soul stage or even the Dharma or primal core stages, if they were to meet an ancient primordial soul practitioner of the ancient primordial soul stage, they would also be badly beaten. For those who practice the primordial soul stage techniques in our era, even if they enter the primordial soul stage, they may not be a match for those ancient primordial soul practitioners who practice the ancient primordial soul stage techniques to the ultimate Dharma stage. The disparity is too great. The techniques of that era were far more powerful than we imagined. Hearing Lu Pingxing's words, Zhou Donghuang's eyes uncontrollably narrowed, and his heart trembled. Lu Pingxing's words were like a bolt of lightning that broke through the thick fog in the depths of his heart. Ancient primordial soul stage techniques? If everything that Lu Pingxing said was true, then the Lord of the Four Supremes, that he was practicing could very well be an ancient primordial soul stage technique from the ancient times. Furthermore, it was a top-notch technique from the ancient times that was as rare as a phoenix feather or a unicorn horn. This was because the Lord of the Four Supremes could be practiced all the way to the ultimate primordial soul stage. Everything that you said was recorded in that small booklet? Zhou Donghuang asked to confirm. Yes. Lu Pingxing nodded. Although the history of the ancient times was cut off, the words of that time were still different from the words of the present. You can recognize them? Zhou Donghuang asked again. You even know this? Lu Pingxing was shocked. He had never imagined that Zhou Donghuang, who was from a small galaxy like the Honglio galaxy, would know about this. In the sect that I was in, there were records of deciphering the words of the ancient times. When I was young, I was also very interested in this area, so I can recognize the words of the ancient times. Lu Pingxing said. Can I take a look at that small booklet? Zhou Donghuang's eyes flashed. Although it was difficult for him to speak, he finally spoke. That's not a problem, but can you understand it? Lu Pingxing looked at Zhou Donghuang suspiciously, obviously not believing that Zhou Donghuang could understand the words of the ancient times. Yes. Zhou Donghuang nodded. In his previous life, he had been fortunate enough to come into contact with a few stone tablets that had been passed down from the ancient times. Because he was curious about what was written on the ancient words, he had specially looked for people who understood the ancient words and learned them from them. However, those stone tablets only recorded some sloppy and ordinary things, and they didn't bring him any fortuitous encounters. As Zhou Donghuang nodded, Lu Pingxing had already taken out a small booklet from his space ring. The paper that was woven into the booklet was made of an unknown material. Although it looked simple and ancient, there were no signs of decay or damage on it. What is written on the cover? Lu Pingxing did not rush to hand the booklet over to Zhou Donghuang. Instead, he held the booklet facing Zhou Donghuang, obviously intending to test him. Hearing this, Zhou Donghuang looked at it and instantly recognized the words on it. Once a year Yunyi. Almost as soon as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, Lu Pingxing had already lost his composure and exclaimed, You can really recognize it? The booklet in his hand was left behind by an ancient person named Yunyi, and on the cover were the words that Zhou Donghuang had said. Chapter 301. As Zhou Donghuang took the booklet and flipped through it, Lu Pingxing stared at him unblinkingly, his eyes filled with shock. Even he had spent tens of years before he could master some of the commonly used ancient words. Yet, this young man in front of him seemed to be only in his 20s? He could actually understand the ancient words on the booklet? Furthermore, looking at his expressionless face, it was obvious that he had not encountered any words that he did not recognize. Even he could only roughly understand the contents of the booklet. There were some rare words that even he did not recognize, as there were no records of these rare words in the ancient words that he knew. Do you recognize these words? As Zhou Donghuang flipped to another page, Lu Pingxing pointed to a few words on the page and asked Zhou Donghuang one by one. As for Zhou Donghuang, he translated those words to Lu Pingxing, causing Lu Pingxing to be dumbfounded once again. The way he looked at Zhou Donghuang became even more complicated. Where did this young man come from? Not only did he have amazing martial arts talent, but he could also recognize ancient words? Based on the current situation, Zhou Donghuang's mastery of ancient words far surpassed his. Zhou Donghuang flipped through the booklet very quickly. In the blink of an eye, he had flipped through more than 200 pages. At the same time, he confirmed that what Lu Pingxing had said earlier was true. The Lord of the Four Supremes that he practiced could basically be confirmed to be an ancient primordial soul level technique. In ancient times, primordial soul level techniques were the best of the best. As for primordial soul techniques that could be cultivated to the ultimate primordial soul realm, in ancient times, they were as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. To think that Earth has such a top ancient technique like the Lord of the Four Supremes, it looks like many years ago Earth may have had its glory days. It's even possible that there was once a group of extremely talented practitioners on Earth. Zhou Donghuang's heart skipped a beat as he guessed to himself, those ancient myths and legends on Earth may be true. It looks like I'll have to return to Earth earlier in the future and take a good look around Earth to see if there are any other things left behind by the ancient practitioners. In his previous life, it was fine that he didn't know that Earth had top-notch techniques from ancient times. Now that he knew about it, he had to take a good look around Earth to see if he could unearth more things. Perhaps the Lord of the Four Supremes, an ancient primordial divinity cultivation technique, was just the tip of the iceberg. I'm grateful that you're willing to pass on to me the insights you've gained from studying divine Dharma aspect for hundreds of years. However, if I don't see any hope, I won't continue to persevere like you. Now, not only was he not worried, he could not wait for Lu Pingxing to stay in the Autumn Valley, or even the Lightning Sword sect for a little longer. It was undoubtedly Zhou Donghuang's great fortune to have such a Buddha stay behind to teach Zhou Donghuang. Of course, the Lightning Sword sect leader also hoped that Lu Pingxing would stay in the Lightning Sword sect. That way, the Lightning Sword sect could become the third transcendental force in the Hengliu galaxy. Furthermore, as long as Lu Pingxing stayed in the Lightning Sword sect, the two transcendental forces of the Hengliu galaxy, the Qi dynasty and the Guangling Academy, would not dare to target the Lightning Sword sect. Of course, this was just wishful thinking. Lu Pingxing had only stayed in the Lightning Sword sect for 3 months before leaving. Originally, Lu Pingxing had planned to stay for a few years. However, he did not expect that this martial arts genius of the Lightning Sword sect would be able to understand everything that he had spent hundreds of years studying. He basically did not need to repeat it twice. Finally, as he was leaving, Lu Pingxing had a very strong premonition. This martial arts genius of the Lightning Sword sect might really be able to master the divine Dharma technique and take a historic, crucial step forward. One had to know that since ancient times, there had never been anyone who had trained their Dharma to the point where they could master the divine Dharma technique. Basically, the limit was Dharma power control. I'm leaving. As he left, Lu Pingxing's words were very short. All right. And Zhou Donghuang's reply was also very simple. Although I corrected myself in time, I still encountered a bottleneck at the critical moment of breaking through to the divine transformation stage. Apart from feeling awkward, He also felt somewhat helpless. Keep the circulation route of the cultivation technique that I've cultivated in the past? Zhou Donghuang was a little speechless. Although doing so would allow him to master the new technique faster, it was not worth it. This was because the circulation routes of the techniques were one, and if he hastily kept the old technique, it would definitely affect the new technique. What's the situation now? Zhou Donghuang asked. He shook his head. Actually, I'm not too sure either. I just feel that after I corrected the circulation route of the technique, when spirit and inner yuan pass through that part of the circulation route, a small portion of the circulation route will automatically circulate according to the original circulation route. I tried to correct it. 1 day, 10 days, 1 month, 3 months, and the longest time I even spent half a year, but there was still no improvement. He smiled bitterly. Not even half a year? Zhou Donghuang raised an eyebrow. Valley Head, during the correction period, do you sometimes let the spirit and inner yuan circulate on their own? Yes. He nodded. Sometimes I can't help but want to test the effect of the correction, but I don't try for long. After hearing He words, Zhou Donghuang shook his head and said, that's the problem. During the correction period you can't let the spirit and inner yuan circulate on their own. Try again. Whenever you practice, the circulation route of the technique must be corrected and cannot be allowed to circulate on its own. If there are no accidents, you should be able to successfully correct it in at most a month's time. Zhou Donghuang said, of course in this month's time, remember not to let the spirit and inner yuan circulate on their own, because before the correction is successful, letting the spirit and inner yuan circulate on their own will be a waste of effort. Only by persisting for a month and not letting the spirit and inner yuan circulate on their own will you be able to destroy the original inertia and correct it successfully. The problem that He had encountered was only a small problem, and to Zhou Donghuang, it was not difficult at all to solve. He was not stupid, and after hearing Zhou Donghuang's words, he naturally realized the feasibility of this method. After bidding Zhou Donghuang, I'll try it, he immediately disappeared. After He left, Zhou Donghuang returned to his room to continue practicing. I didn't expect, after Dharma power control, there's still divine Dharma power. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, Zhou Donghuang's body flashed with a thought. It was the silhouettes of the four divine beasts, and they surrounded Zhou Donghuang, opening their mouths to absorb the spirit in the air. The spirit absorbed by the energy-gathering formation was already very dense, and Zhou Donghuang's usual practice could not keep up. But now, the speed at which the energy-gathering formation absorbed spirit was far slower than the speed at which the four divine beasts absorbed spirit. And this was the technique of divine Dharma power. Long before Lu Pingxing had left, Zhou Donghuang had already mastered the technique of divine Dharma power, but he had not revealed it to Lu Pingxing. He was not willing to stand out like this. If Lu Pingxing knew about this, it would be fine if he did not have any ill intentions towards him. If he did, it would not be a good thing for him. I really didn't expect that by using the Lord of the Four Supremes and Lu Pingxing's hundreds of years of research, I could actually master the technique of divine Dharma power in just 3 short months. Even now, Zhou Donghuang could not help but sigh. It looks like the Lord of the Four Supremes, an ancient primordial soul technique, is very helpful in mastering the technique of divine Dharma power. The divine Dharma power was to gather the silhouettes of Dharma power around one's body, allowing the silhouettes to absorb spirit to aid in their practice. Generally speaking, the speed at which one Dharma power could absorb spirit was already considered very fast, but Zhou Donghuang now had 4 Dharma powers to help him absorb spirit to train, so the speed was even faster. Now, around Zhou Donghuang's residence, there was a visible ripple of spirit. Of course, he could only discover it when he got close. Previously, when Lu Pingxing was around, he did not dare to use the divine Dharma power to absorb spirit to train, but now that Lu Pingxing had left for a period of time, he was completely relieved. I feel like, at this speed, it won't be long before my 4 ultimate Dharma powers can all enter the primordial soul stage and form the primordial soul of the 4 divine beasts. Zhou Donghuang's originally tightly shut eyes suddenly opened, and a bright light twinkled in his eyes. Previously, with the help of the 4 Sky Sun elixirs, the 4 divine beasts in Zhou Donghuang's body had all entered the ultimate Dharma stage. Now that he had mastered the divine Dharma power, the speed of his training was even faster, and he felt that it wouldn't be long before he could successfully enter the primordial soul stage and become a primordial soul adept. Furthermore, the current him no longer needed to worry about the problem of training the Lord of the Four Supremes would face after entering the primordial soul stage. With the divine Dharma power technique, he would be able to walk the path of training of the ancient humans. Chapter 303. Training knew no time. In September 1234 of the Ziyun era, Zhou Donghuang left the Ziyun planet and arrived at the Hongliu galaxy, where he entered the Autumn Valley of the Lightning Sword sect. In September 1237 of the Ziyun era, Zhou Donghuang participated in the alliance hunt of the Hongliu galaxy. 3 months later, in December 1237 of the Ziyun era, he won first place in the alliance hunt. In the blink of an eye, it was already the end of the year 1238 of the Ziyun era. At this time, half a year had passed since Lu Pingxing had left, and Zhou Donghuang had been training in seclusion for a whole half a year. In this half a year, with the spirit stones he had set up the energy-gathering formation and the divine Dharma technique, Zhou Donghuang had finally entered the primordial soul stage. Of course, it was not the primordial soul stage recognized by the Lord of the Four Supremes. The Lord of the Four Supremes recognized the primordial soul stage as the transformation of all 4 dharmas into the primordial soul stage, not just 1 or 2 or 3 Dharma powers. In the blink of an eye, it's been more than 3 years since I left the Ziyun planet. When I return from the Guiyao planet, I'll go to a few places to collect some things before returning to the Ziyun planet to bring some spirit stones and elixirs back for them. 3 years ago, when Zhou Donghuang had left the Ziyun planet, he had thought that when he had enough training resources, he would go back and use them on his family and the people of the Donghuang sect. Now it was about time. Of course, after more than 3 years, Zhou Donghuang's appearance had not changed much. He was as young and handsome as before, but his eyes seemed to have been through a lot and did not look like the eyes of a young man. "Little brother, you've come out of seclusion?" Just as Zhou Donghuang walked out of the courtyard, Dezhuang's voice came from outside. Dezhuang had heard the creak of Zhou Donghuang's door opening and had come over. "Dezhuang, have you entered the ultimate Dharma stage?" Zhou Donghuang asked with a smile. "Not yet." Dezhuang scratched the back of his head in embarrassment. "I'm a little stupid. Senior sister has already entered the ultimate Dharma stage 2 months ago, but I haven't broken through yet. The Valley Master said that it's useless for me to cultivate in seclusion, and it might even have the opposite effect. So, I've been practicing some of the moves in the Fiery Thunder training regimen, in the courtyard. As he spoke, Donghuang looked at Zhou Donghuang weakly, as if afraid that Zhou Donghuang would think that he was useless. Not bad. Zhou Donghuang smiled. Third senior sister's level of practice is higher than yours, so it's normal that she broke through before you. Continue practicing your moves. I have something to discuss with the Valley Master. After saying this, Zhou Donghuang left to see He of the Autumn Valley. Hearing Chu Wei's reminder, the other middle-aged man, who had a look of disdain on his face, turned serious as well. As for the last old man, his expression was calm from the start, and it was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry. Let's go. The three Qi dynasty worshippers, who were three ultimate adepts, instantly transformed into three streaks of light and shot out from the galaxy teleporter. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared into the clouds as if they had never been there in the first place. Let's split up. If we find any traces of Zhou Donghuang, we will gather together and kill him. The seventh prince has said that we will not leave him alive. Such a talented person, if we give him a chance and he manages to escape successfully, it will not be a good thing for the Qi dynasty if he decides to seek revenge on us in the future. Therefore we have to kill him completely. It would be best if we can destroy his corpse and not leave a single trace. Chu Wei and the other two ultimate primordial soul worshippers of the Chu dynasty passed through the clouds above the Tailao planet and appeared in the boundless starry sky. Chu Wei spoke in a low voice to the other two beside him. In the next moment, the other two flew away from him, maintaining a certain distance from each other. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The three of them formed the three corners of a triangle, and with Chu Wei leading the way, they headed in the direction of the Guiyao planet. At this moment, Zhou Donghuang was also traversing the starry sky in front of Chu Wei and the other two towards the Guiyao planet. Furthermore, his speed was so fast that it exceeded the expectations of Chu Wei and the other two. After some time, the three of them finally saw Zhou Donghuang's figure in the distance. At the same time, they also saw Zhou Donghuang's speed. This is a Dharma adept? The two people beside Chu Wei simultaneously looked at Chu Wei. Did we follow the wrong person? The figure in front of them was so fast that it was not something that a Dharma adept could achieve. He was at least an early primordial soul adept. Although they were quite a distance apart, with Chu Wei's eyesight, he could still recognize Zhou Donghuang's figure. That's right. It's him. This unappreciative kid, I'll remember his back even if he's turned to ash. As Chu Wei spoke, his tone became serious and he gritted his teeth. Back then, if the Lightning Sword sect leader Yu Yuqing had not been by his side, he would have taught this kid a lesson long ago. How dare he be so unappreciative? It looks like he was about to break through to the ultimate Dharma stage. Then he consumed the Sky Sun fruit and successfully broke through to the primordial soul stage within a short year. Chu Wei guessed. Sky Sun fruit? Hearing Chu Wei's words, the other two's eyes flashed with regret. It's a pity that such a good spirit fruit was eaten by someone who is about to die. This Zhou Donghuang, so what if he consumed the Sky Sun fruit? In the end he won't live for more than a few days. What a waste, it would have been better for my grandson to consume it. Between their words, there was a deep sense of regret. The Sky Sun fruit was such a rare spirit fruit. Now it had been consumed by someone who was about to die. Not to mention them, even King Qi of the Qi Manor would feel regretful about this. A 27-year-old primordial soul adept. Even in the history of the Qi dynasty, there has never been such a person, right? The middle-aged man's eyes flashed as he suddenly asked. No. The other old man shook his head. In the history of the Qi dynasty, the fastest person to reach the primordial soul stage was at the age of 29. That person had already reached the late divine transformation stage before he left the Honglio galaxy. Haha! Hearing this, the middle-aged man's eyes lit up. To be able to kill such a talent with my own hands is enough for me, Chai Meng, to brag for the rest of my life. Let's go. As Chu Wei spoke, his figure flickered, and it was as if he had transformed into a shooting star. In the blink of an eye, he was getting closer and closer to the figure in front of him. The other two also followed Chu Wei at the same time. The speed of the three ultimate primordial soul adepts was ridiculously fast, and they quickly caught up with the figure in front of them. Not only did they block his way, but they also surrounded him like an impenetrable wall. Zhou Donghuang. Chu Wei blocked his way, glaring at him. I bet you never dreamed that we would meet again so soon. As he spoke, the corners of Chu Wei's mouth curled into a mocking smile. What? However, Zhou Donghuang did not seem surprised at the appearance of Chu Wei and the other two. Could it be that the people of the Chu dynasty are planning to kidnap me and bring me back to the Qi dynasty? Kidnap me back to the Qi dynasty? Chu Wei laughed coldly. Zhou Donghuang, you think too highly of yourself. Do you think the Qi dynasty would dare to use someone we have kidnapped? Chu Wei looked at Zhou Donghuang again as if he was looking at an idiot. Eastern Royal Emperor, Eastern Royal Emperor. Chapter 304. Then why are you here? Zhou Donghuang asked calmly, as if he really did not know the purpose of their visit. It was to the extent that his expression didn't reveal anything unusual from the beginning until the end. To kill you, Chu Wei said coldly. A potential threat like you cannot be used by the Qi dynasty, so your only fate is death. From the moment you rejected the 14th prince and the 7th prince, your fate was sealed. It seems like the Qi dynasty is afraid of me. Zhou Donghuang laughed calmly, not at all like someone who was in a life or death situation. Even Chai Meng, who was standing beside Chu Wei, could not stand Zhou Donghuang's laughter. Rascal, you are about to die and you can still laugh? Only the old man among the three looked at Zhou Donghuang with a slight frown. At the same time, a wary expression appeared on his face. Whoosh! Just as the old man was on high alert, and Chu Wei and Chai Meng were glaring at Zhou Donghuang, ready to strike at any moment, a swift sound pierced through the air. In an instant, under the watchful eyes of the three, a figure appeared beside Zhou Donghuang in the blink of an eye. Eugene? Seeing who it was, Chu Wei frowned slightly and looked behind him cautiously. After confirming that no one else had arrived, his frown relaxed slightly. If it was just Eugene alone, he would not have been afraid. After all, Eugene was an ultimate primordial soul adept just like him. Perhaps, if it was a one-on-one fight, he might not be a match for Eugene. But now they had 3 ultimate primordial soul adepts. Even the strongest ultimate primordial soul adept in the Lightning Sword sect would be killed by the 3 of them, let alone the Autumn Valley head of the Lightning Sword sect. The Autumn Valley head of the Lightning Sword sect? Just as Chu Wei recognized Eugene, the old man beside him also recognized him. The 3 of you from the Qi dynasty, what are you trying to do? Eugene had only met one of the 3 before him, and that was Chu Wei. When he had first arrived at the Lightning Sword sect with the 14th prince of the Qi dynasty, he had met Chu Wei once and knew that he was an ultimate primordial soul adept. The Qi dynasty? However, after hearing Eugene's words, Chu Wei calmly said, "We are not from the Qi dynasty. You have the wrong person." Obviously, Chu Wei did not intend to admit his identity. No matter what the 3 of them did this time was something that couldn't be seen in the light. Kill them all. Chu Wei's next words were resolute and decisive, very straightforward. Almost as soon as Chu Wei finished speaking, he was not the only one. The 2 people next to him also made their moves. Their powerful nascent souls appeared like 3 towering mountains. They were like peerless gods of war in the starry sky, their bodies shining with brilliant light. In the Lightning Sword sect, even if another divine transformation adept were to be born, surely it would not be Eugene's turn, right? What did Eugene do to deserve this? This is the first time that I, Eugene, have made a move since I entered the divine transformation stage. Eugene's voice rang out, shaking the starry sky. Since the 3 of you are here, why don't you stay here? Eugene's primordial soul power, which was as huge as a mountain, opened its mouth and spat out. Instantly, countless rays of sword light shot out, and in the blink of an eye, it shattered the attacks of the 3 people. It was as if it was crushing dry weeds and smashing rotten wood. Not good. He is not an ordinary divine transformation adept. My God. Even an ordinary mid-divine transformation adept would not be able to execute such a powerful attack, right? This Eugene has hidden his strength so well. The expressions of Chu Wei and the other 2 changed again and again. Very quickly, they exchanged glances, their eyes filled with determination. Then, the 3 of them split into 3 different directions and flew off into the distance. Eugene's power was far beyond their imagination. The 3 of them had attacked with all their might, and the 3 waves of attacks were extremely powerful. However, in the face of the countless rays of sword light that Eugene's primordial soul power had spat out, they could not even withstand a single blow. The current Eugene, in their eyes, was even more powerful than an ordinary mid-divine transformation adept. However, they could also confirm that Eugene's inner yuan was only that of an early divine transformation adept. The reason why he was able to unleash such a frightening attack was entirely because his techniques were extraordinary, or perhaps it could be said that the techniques that he trained in were extraordinary. At least one of us must survive and report back. Eugene's technique is definitely more powerful than the best techniques in the Qi dynasty. Run. When Chu Wei and the other 2 arrived, it was as if they had everything under control. They were majestic and arrogant. Even if He Jin appeared, they did not care. They felt that killing one Zhou Donghuang was the same as killing two He Jin. There was no difference. However, what they did not expect was that He Jin was not only a divine transformation adept, but he was also a divine transformation adept who was even more powerful than an ordinary mid-divine transformation adept. Run. He Jin laughed condescendingly. Then, his primordial soul power waved its right hand, and a brilliant ray of sword light sliced through the air like a ray of starlight. Whoosh, whoosh. Chu Wei and the old man were both killed by He Jin's sword. Their souls were destroyed and they were dead. As they fled, they did not even have the time to show expressions of fear and despair. Whoosh. Chapter 305. Whoosh. After killing Chai Meng, He Jin's primordial soul was kept. At the same time, his face was filled with shock. I've only just entered the early divine transformation stage, but I'm already so powerful. When I stabilize my training, won't I be even more powerful? In contrast to He Jin's astonishment, Zhou Donghuang was not surprised by this. Now that he heard He Jin mumbling to himself, he smiled faintly and said, "Valley Head, don't forget that the technique you've switched to is a deity-level technique. It's the best technique in the entire universe. This kind of cultivation technique usually only exists in the great clans and supreme sects that stand at the peak of the universe. Do you think that the early divine transformation adepts of the great clans and supreme sects would not be able to fight against the mid-divine transformation adepts of the Honglio galaxy? It's also because you only switched to the thousand-star sword technique later, or else your current power would not be limited to this." Zhou Donghuang's words enlightened He Jin. Only now did he remember that the technique he had switched to was one of the top deities' tribulation techniques in the universe. But, suddenly Zhou Donghuang's expression became serious. "Valley Head, if you don't want to cause trouble, it's best not to reveal your full power in front of others in the short term. Just now, I'm afraid those people could see that you're only at the early soul formation stage, but you're already stronger than a mid-soul formation stage cultivator. In that situation, their first thought was that you've switched to a very advanced cultivation method." Zhou Donghuang did not say anything else, because he knew that He Jin knew what he was doing. After all, He Jin was the Autumn Valley head of the Lightning Sword sect's inner sect. He had seen many things and was very experienced. "I was too careless this time." He Jin nodded. "But luckily they're all dead, so they won't spread the news. Wait for me to familiarize myself with my current power. If I attack again, I'll control myself." Now He Jin was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Once the news that he had switched to a powerful technique spread, not only would the other sects of the Alliance not be able to control themselves, even the two transcendental forces of the Honglio galaxy would definitely attack him. This technique allowed He Jin, who had just entered the early divine transformation stage, to have the ability to surpass an average mid-divine transformation adept. Even if he had the best cultivation techniques from the Qi dynasty and the Guangling Academy, the two transcendental forces of the Henry Star, he would not be able to achieve this. "Yes." Zhou Donghuang nodded and said to He Jin, "Valley Head, let's continue to the Guiyao planet." This time, before he left, Zhou Donghuang specially went to look for He Jin. The main reason he was looking for He Jin was so that he could escort him to the Guiyao planet. After all, he had previously rejected the two transcendental forces of the Honglio galaxy. Who knew if they would take advantage of this opportunity to harm him? Having lived for 1,000 years in his previous life, he had experienced many things and seen many things, so he did not find this strange. Therefore, although he had asked He Jin to follow him to the Guiyao planet, he did not ask He Jin to travel with him. Instead, he asked He Jin to maintain a manageable distance and follow him. As it turned out, his conjecture was not baseless. The Qi dynasty had really made a move against him, and they had even sent out 3 ultimate primordial soul adepts. All right. He Jin agreed and continued to head towards the Guiyao planet with Zhou Donghuang. This time he did not stray too far away from Zhou Donghuang, but instead traveled alongside him. "Donghuang, the Qi dynasty really thinks highly of you. In order to kill you, they actually sent out 3 ultimate primordial soul adepts." Along the way, He Jin looked at Zhou Donghuang and smiled bitterly. Although he could understand Zhou Donghuang's concerns and had followed him on this trip, he had subconsciously felt that even if the Qi dynasty and the Guangling Academy wanted to send people to kill Zhou Donghuang, they would only send 1 or 2 ordinary primordial soul adepts. He had not expected the Qi dynasty to send out ultimate primordial soul adepts, and 3 of them at that. Even if he had broken through to the divine transformation stage and had not switched to the thousand-star sword technique, he would still have died if he had encountered these 3 ultimate primordial soul adepts. Not to mention Zhou Donghuang. I didn't expect this either. Zhou Donghuang smiled faintly. He looked calm and emotionless, but as his eyes narrowed into slits deep in his heart, he had already made a mental note to remember this. This was the first time the Qi dynasty had sent someone to kill him, and their attitude was resolute. Furthermore, it was the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty who had personally given the order. Since this was the case, this debt would be placed on the head of the 7th prince. If he killed him once, he would kill another person from the Qi dynasty. This time he would kill the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty. He Jin did not know what Zhou Donghuang was thinking. If he knew that Zhou Donghuang was thinking of killing the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty as revenge for the Qi dynasty's ambush, he would definitely be shocked. After all, the 7th prince of the Qi dynasty was one of the most popular candidates to become the next king of the Qi dynasty. Furthermore, he was one of the most popular candidates. To the Qi dynasty, they would rather have 100 princes like the 14th prince die than have the 7th prince die. I'm afraid this is just the beginning. He Jin smiled bitterly as he said, this time the 3 ultimate primordial soul adepts sent by the Qi dynasty have all died. They will definitely not take this lying down. Even if they don't do it in the open, they will definitely use all their means in the dark. This time, it was 3 ultimate primordial soul adepts who came to kill you. Next time, it will definitely be divine transformation adepts. Donghuang, why don't you go out and hide for a while? As he spoke, He Jin could not help but suggest this. He Jin was confident that as long as the Qi dynasty did not send a mid-divine transformation adept or a late divine transformation adept, he would be able to ensure Zhou Donghuang's safety. However, just as Zhou Donghuang had said earlier, he could not easily reveal his true abilities. Once this was revealed, the fact that he had switched to a more powerful technique would also be revealed, and he would be in deep trouble. Furthermore, there were many divine transformation adepts in the Qi dynasty who were much more powerful than him. If these divine transformation adepts were to attack him, even the other 2 divine transformation adepts of the Lightning Sword sect would not be able to protect Zhou Donghuang. Because of this, he had asked Zhou Donghuang to go into hiding. Valley Head, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Zhou Donghuang smiled lightly and did not take the threat of the Qi dynasty seriously. This trip to the Guiyao planet would be the last period of time he would spend in the Hongliu galaxy. After leaving the Guiyao planet, he planned to leave the Hongliu galaxy and head to another galaxy to collect the rare treasures that would be taken away by others in the future. Previously, when he was at the primal core stage, he had followed the memories of his past life and collected many treasures in advance, which had helped him in his later training. However, these items could only be collected with his previous level of training. There were many other items that he would not have been able to collect at his current level of training. Now, the 4 Dharma powers in his body had already entered the primordial soul stage, and his power was no weaker than that of an average primordial soul adept. Hence, he had enough power to collect more treasures. At the same time, he planned to make a trip to the Ziyun planet. After that, he planned to go to Earth once more. In this life, he only had one goal, and that was to become stronger as quickly as possible. This was the only way he could change the fate of everyone he cared about and save his biological parents. In his past life, the death of his biological parents was one of his greatest regrets. In this life, since he had the upper hand, he would not allow this regret to repeat itself. Donghuang, why are you going to the Guiyao planet? Previously, I thought that you were going to the Guiyao planet to hide the fact that the Qi dynasty and the Guangling Academy might have sent people to attack. But now, the people of the Qi dynasty are dead, and I can confirm that there are no people from the Guangling Academy nearby. Why do you still want to go to the Guiyao planet? He Jin asked curiously. Valley Head, I am going to the Guiyao planet to confirm some of my guesses, Zhou Donghuang said. Of course, if you are interested, you can come with me to confirm it. If you are not interested, you can stay outside the Guiyao planet and train while you wait for me. I will wait for you outside, He Jin said with a shrug. He Jin shrugged as he spoke. He had no interest in the Guiyao planet. In his eyes, the Guiyao planet was just a strange planet that had existed for a long time. There were many beasts on the planet, but none of them had managed to enter the primordial soul stage. It was as if there was some kind of magical power that prevented the beasts from entering the primordial soul stage. Many people were curious about this and wanted to enter the planet to investigate. This included the people from the various sects of the Alliance, as well as the people from the Qi dynasty and the Guangling Academy. However, none of them had found anything. As time passed, there were fewer and fewer people who were interested in the planet. Now that Zhou Donghuang wanted to go to the Guiyao planet, He Jin believed that he wanted to find out the secrets of the Guiyao planet, but the secrets were not so easily discovered. It was said that in the past, the late divine transformation adepts of the Qi dynasty and the Guangling Academy had gone to the Guiyao planet to find out the secrets of the spirit energy on the planet. However, they had found nothing. Because of this, He Jin did not follow Zhou Donghuang to the Guiyao planet. Instead, he waited for Zhou Donghuang outside the planet. Be careful. As soon as he said this, He Jin regretted it. This was because he remembered that the strongest beasts on the Guiyao planet were only at the ultimate Dharma stage. These beasts were no longer a threat to Zhou Donghuang a year ago, let alone now. After a year, Zhou Donghuang had successfully entered the primordial soul stage. He Jin had already noticed this when he had followed Zhou Donghuang to the Guiyao planet and seen the speed that Zhou Donghuang had displayed. Now that Duanling Tian had entered the Guiyao planet, the beasts on the planet were no longer a threat to him. I hope that I will be able to find something this time. After replying to He Jin, Zhou Donghuang flew down and landed on the Guiyao planet. Right now, the formation on the Guiyao planet had not been activated, and one could enter and leave as one pleased. Chapter 306. Seeing Zhou Donghuang's silhouette disappear in front of him, He Jin shook his head and laughed bitterly. This lad is really stubborn. This time, before he left the Lightning Sword sect, Zhou Donghuang had looked for him and told him of his concerns. He felt that the Qi dynasty might have sent people to wait outside the sect, waiting for an opportunity to kill him. At that time, the first thing he said was, "Tell the Qi dynasty that you are acquainted with Lu Pingxing. They will definitely not do anything to you." Although Lu Pingxing was usually in the Guangling Academy, the other transcendental force in the Hengliu galaxy, both the Guangling Academy Dean and King Qi of the Qi dynasty respected him as their teacher and father. If he were to be mentioned, the Qi dynasty would definitely not do anything to Zhou Donghuang. However, Zhou Donghuang rejected him, saying that he did not want to owe him any more favors. To Zhou Donghuang, the fact that Lu Pingxing had shared his understanding of the divine Dharma power with him was already a huge favor. He did not want to owe Lu Pingxing any more favors. After Zhou Donghuang entered the Guiyao planet, he once again felt the spirit energy on the Guiyao planet stirring. The demon is still here. As his eyes lit up, Zhou Donghuang also began to search for traces of the demon throughout the Guiyao planet. He searched every inch of the planet, not leaving a single spot untouched. The entire process was meticulous and careful. Zhou Donghuang was very patient. Even as the days passed and he still did not find anything, he was still very patient. This was because he knew that once he lost his patience, he would easily miss out on important clues and would not be able to discover the breeding grounds of the demon. The breeding grounds of the demon were all very well hidden. Not only were there secret spells to conceal it, but there were also natural barriers to conceal it. This was also why, although the Guiyao planet was strange, no one in the Hengliu galaxy had discovered its secrets after so many years. A month passed in the blink of an eye. Zhou Donghuang found nothing. Another 2 months passed. Still nothing. 3 months passed and still nothing. However, even so, Zhou Donghuang was still very patient. His divine will swept every inch of the Guiyao planet. Now, he had 2 Dharma powers that had entered the primordial soul stage. Because he had used the divine soul shaper to form his divine will when he was at the Dharma stage, the divine will of these 2 primordial soul adepts was much stronger than that of ordinary early primordial soul adepts. 2 divine senses spread out, one on the left and one on the right. Finally found it. Finally, in the 4th month, Zhou Donghuang successfully discovered a clue. Whoosh! Crash! Now, Zhou Donghuang was floating in the air in front of a huge waterfall. The water in the waterfall seemed to fall from the sky, splashing against the rocks below. The highest splash was more than 10 meters. Zhou Donghuang's gaze was fixed on the center of the waterfall. The water curtain cave recorded in Journey to the West on Earth seems to be hidden within the waterfall. Could this water curtain cave be breeding a monkey? As he muttered to himself, Zhou Donghuang shook his head. He felt that he had watched too much Journey to the West and had become obsessed. But now he was sure. The breeding ground of the great demon was indeed behind the waterfall. If he wasn't attentive, he wouldn't have discovered this place at all. Even if a separating divinity adept was here, if he wasn't serious and careful, he wouldn't be able to discover this place with his divine sense. Only a celestial adept would be able to discover this place easily. As he thought to himself, Zhou Donghuang flew out. His entire body was covered with a layer of inner yuan, avoiding the water as he passed through the waterfall. His robes were not stained by a single drop of water. After passing through the waterfall, he saw a mountain wall that looked flawless. However, when Zhou Donghuang stepped on it, the mountain wall where his foot landed instantly shattered into pieces, and a huge hole appeared just in time. This cave was more than 10 meters tall and close to 10 meters wide. It was extremely dark inside, and from time to time, a soft sound could be heard, giving off a creepy feeling. Zhou Donghuang's expression did not change as he stepped into the cave. Unknowingly, a flame had appeared on Zhou Donghuang's hand. It was the fire that was condensed from the inner yuan in his body, and it lit up the path of the cave. It was narrow and deep. The mountain wall was uneven and looked extremely rough. The path under his feet was the same. "I'm here." When he reached the end of the cave, Zhou Donghuang stopped in his tracks. At this moment he could feel an extremely strong aura rushing towards him, giving him a suffocating feeling. He knew that the big demon that was being nurtured was inside. "I wonder what kind of big demon it is." Taking a deep breath, Zhou Donghuang was closest to the end of the path. There was another layer of illusory spell that he had dispelled. The moment the illusory spell was dispelled, his eyes lit up, and he realized that he had appeared in a huge and bright cave. In front of him, spirit weapons that seemed to be almost tangible were continuously condensing. This spirit energy came from the various mountain walls of the cave, and it was obvious that it had come directly from the various spirit stone mines on the Guiyao planet. The spirit energy here was not as turbulent as the spirit energy outside. Now Zhou Donghuang was attracted by the altar in the cave. More accurately, he was attracted by the thing on the altar. The altar was hexagonal in shape, and it was carved with complicated patterns. The design was simple and it gave off a sense of vicissitudes. On top of the altar, a crystal coffin floated in the air. The surrounding spirit energy had all been absorbed by it, and the spirit energy that it emitted carried with it the unique aura of the Guiyao planet. In the crystal coffin, a young lady dressed in a snow-white robe lay there. She had a slender figure and a perfect face. Her eyes were tightly shut, and when Zhou Donghuang's gaze landed on her face, he found it hard to look away. Could she be that big demon? Zhou Donghuang's heart trembled, and he found it hard to believe that this almost perfect lady in front of him was actually the big demon that had caused the spirit energy on the Guiyao planet to fluctuate. This was too surreal, wasn't it? Zhou Donghuang questioned himself. In both his past and current lives, this was the first time he had seen such a beautiful lady. She was breathtakingly beautiful, and although her figure was voluptuous, it was difficult for anyone to have any thoughts of desecrating her. Taking a deep breath, Zhou Donghuang could not help but extend his divine will outwards, intending to investigate the lady and see if she was a human or a demon. This was a completely subconscious action. If the lady had been a big demon with a ferocious face, Zhou Donghuang would definitely not have used his divine will to investigate it. This was because it was a very dangerous thing to do, and it could possibly awaken the big demon temporarily, causing the big demon to attack and kill him. However, at this moment, Zhou Donghuang subconsciously extended his divine will outwards. It was only when his divine will touched the crystal coffin that he came back to his senses. At the same time, the expression on his face, which had always been calm and collected, suddenly changed. His eyes narrowed and his heart trembled. Not good. In the next instant, his first thought was to retract his divine will. At this moment, before he could retract his divine will, he discovered that within the crystal coffin, there was an extremely strong divine will, and in an instant, it came into contact with his divine will. It's over. At this moment, Zhou Donghuang thought that he was finished. However, in the next moment he discovered that the terrifying divine will that originated from the crystal coffin, when it came into contact with his divine will, did not seem to be angry at all. Instead, it was as if it had turned into a pool of autumn water, and completely merged with his divine will. At this moment, images flashed in Zhou Donghuang's mind. He experienced the life of another living being, including her origins, experiences, and why she was here now, why she was sleeping in the ice coffin, and why she was absorbing the spirit energy of the Guiyao planet to nourish herself. At the same time, Zhou Donghuang felt as if he had been completely seen through. Now, I know everything about her. Could it be that she knows everything about me as well? In the next moment, Zhou Donghuang's gaze landed on the lady in white within the crystal coffin. The lady was as pure as before, and although her face and figure were perfect, it was difficult for anyone to have any thoughts of desecrating her. What do you think? A clear and melodious voice suddenly rang out in Zhou Donghuang's mind, causing his hair to stand on end. He seemed to be the only one in this spacious cave abode, right? At the same time, Zhou Donghuang saw that the lady who had been lying in the ice coffin had suddenly stood up and was floating in the air, looking at him calmly and indifferently. The flawless lady in white looked at Zhou Donghuang. No wonder you could wake me up. It turns out that you are someone who has experienced the changes in time and space. From 1,000 years in the future to 1,000 years in the past, it is truly unbelievable. The lady's voice was just like the one that had rung out in Zhou Donghuang's mind, clear and melodious. However, Zhou Donghuang had no time to appreciate the beauty of the lady in front of him or her voice. His expression was dark, and his eyes revealed a cold, murderous intent. This was his biggest secret. If anyone else knew about it, it would be a huge threat to him. You don't have to be hostile towards me. The lady's tone was still cold, but the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile, giving off a refreshing feeling. When you shared your memories with me, I shared my memories with you as well. And in our tribe, we only have one chance to share our memories with another person. According to the rules of our tribe, the chance to share memories can only be reserved for one's partner. Although it is difficult to accept, the rules of the tribe cannot be violated. From today onwards, you are my Emo Ningsang's man. Just as the lady who called herself Emo Ningsang finished speaking, the murderous intent in Zhou Donghuang's eyes froze, and his expression froze. What was this? What did she mean by he was her man? But, recalling a small part of the memory that he had shared with the other party, there seemed to be such a rule in her tribe. Chapter 307. Of course, this woman's tribe had also accidentally given their once-in-a-lifetime chance to share memories with someone else. If the other party satisfied them and was willing to become their path partner, that was fine. If they were not satisfied or if the other party was unwilling, they would kill the other party without hesitation. Furthermore, in such situations, it was usually because they were not satisfied that they killed the man who accidentally shared memories with them. Should I be thankful that I satisfied her? Zhou Donghuang laughed bitterly to himself. He had heard of the tribe that this woman belonged to in his previous life, but he had never come into contact with them. The people of that tribe were all women, and their powerful genes meant that as long as they had a child with a man from another tribe, as long as it was a girl, the child would inherit their tribe's bloodline. The women of this tribe in the boundless universe were the dream partners of all men. They were as pure as ice and as clean as jade, and they would only acknowledge one man in their lifetime. Once they mated with a man, they would bring great benefits to that man, and they could be said to be the perfect vessel for a man to practice. In his previous life, some male adepts had wanted to mate with their tribe because of this. The foolish ones would forcefully abduct the members of their tribe, but often before they could succeed, the other party would choose to self-destruct in order to preserve their innocence, and perish together with them. The clever ones would often openly pursue the members of their tribe, and then mate with them step by step. Of course, the women of this tribe were also very picky. When they chose a path partner, they would usually not choose a mediocre person, not only for their own sake but also for the sake of their descendants. Just like now. Zhou Donghuang did not think that it was his appearance that had satisfied the other party. What she was satisfied with was definitely the memories that he had shared with her, and what she was interested in was his future achievements. His memories came from 1,000 years in the future, and these 1,000 years of memories were destined to make him extraordinary. Furthermore, in his previous life he had been at the ultimate immortal stage, and his achievements in this life would only be higher than in his previous life. Divine Soul Shaper. At the same time, the woman named Emo Ningsang's deep gaze was still locked onto Zhou Donghuang. My man, as long as you do not die prematurely, you will definitely become a god in the future. I am also very interested in some of your memories, so give me some as a betrothal gift when you marry me in the future. As for the dowry, I won't take advantage of you. I'll give you some in advance. Just as Emo Ningsang finished speaking, the spirit energy in the surrounding air suddenly became restless, and it became more and more restless. At the same time, the spirit energy in the air around the Guiyao planet also became more and more turbulent. The turbulence of the spirit energy in the Guiyao planet caused the beasts in various parts of the Guiyao planet to run around. Some of the beasts that were initially docile also began to fight at this moment. What happened? Even He Jin, who was in the starry sky outside the Guiyao planet, could sense the unusual movement of the spirit energy in the Guiyao planet. He entered the Guiyao planet immediately and realized that the restless spirit energy in the Guiyao planet was gathering in one direction. Could it be that Donghuang has really discovered the reason for the spirit energy on the Guiyao planet becoming restless? Is he the one who caused this scene? While He Jin was shocked, he was also trying to figure out which direction the spirit energy was heading in. Very quickly, he arrived at the waterfall in front of the water curtain cave. However, He Jin did not know that there was a water curtain cave behind the waterfall. This was because the spirit energy that was gathering from all directions had entered the cave through the rocks surrounding the waterfall. He could only confirm that there was something hidden within the rocks where the waterfall was located. Just as Jin's divine will swept out and enveloped the rocks surrounding the waterfall, wanting to investigate further, he seemed to sense something. He was first stunned and then his expression changed. This was because a strong wave of inner yuan was sweeping out from within the rocks like a violent storm. In an instant, he was so frightened that he retracted his divine will. Boom. Boom boom boom. Jin stood in the air and at this moment, he could hear the deafening roar in his ears. Immediately he felt a strong, invisible force from all around him that was suppressing him. In the blink of an eye he was suppressed and no matter how hard he tried he could not activate the inner yuan in his body. His inner yuan had been completely suppressed. What a terrifying force. Jin's eyes narrowed and his expression was one of shock. Even an ultimate divine transformation adept might not have the ability to suppress me like this, right? Suppressing me from afar. Although my level of practice is only at the early divine transformation stage, my power is stronger than that of an average mid-divine transformation adept. Jin was frightened and it was not a light one at that. Suddenly, as if he had thought of something, Jin's expression changed again. Oh no, Donghuang might be inside. This time he knew very well why Zhou Donghuang had come. Now, with this strange movement in front of him, he guessed that it had something to do with Zhou Donghuang. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental? Precisely because of this, he guessed that all this had been triggered by Zhou Donghuang. Now, Zhou Donghuang was most likely inside and this made him extremely anxious. Although he and Zhou Donghuang had not known each other for long. However, Zhou Donghuang's appearance had brought about an earth-shattering change to him and his daughter, no matter in which aspect. He had always been grateful to Zhou Donghuang. But today he had to watch as something happened to him. He wanted to go in and see what was going on inside and see if he could save Zhou Donghuang. However, the power that was suppressing him from all directions made it impossible for him to move. Even now, he was only able to float in the air because of the power that was suppressing him. His power had been completely suppressed and he could not mobilize it at all. /B. Time returned to a few breaths ago. Jin who came with you is here. He's just outside. Inside the cave, Ning-sang said to Zhou Donghuang, luckily I shared your memories. Otherwise, if I saw such a human approaching, I would have killed him before he could even get close. Valley Head. Hearing Ning-sang's words, Zhou Donghuang was stunned at first, but he quickly regained his senses and heaved a sigh of relief. Now, the commotion that Ning-sang had caused was so great that the spirit energy of the entire Guiyao planet was in turmoil. This situation would definitely attract the attention of Jin, who was outside the Guiyao planet. After all, he was still on the Guiyao planet. Based on Jin's character, there was no way he would let something happen to him. Alright, next, sit down cross-legged and focus on your Lord of the Four Supremes. Ning-sang spoke again. Hearing this, Zhou Donghuang sat down cross-legged and began to practice the Lord of the Four Supremes. Because he had shared his memories with Ning-sang, he was not surprised that Ning-sang knew his secrets. Although it was a strange feeling. However, he also knew that he did not have the ability to interfere in all of this. If he was stronger than Ning-sang, he could easily kill Ning-sang, and then no one would know his secret. But the problem was, Ning-sang was a separating divinity stage adept, who was above the divine transformation stage. In the Honglio galaxy, a separating divinity stage adept would be invincible. Even if the two transcendental forces of the Honglio galaxy joined forces, they would not be able to stop such an adept. What more him now? Therefore, even though he felt that it was strange that his memories had been read, there was nothing he could do. As for how to resolve this matter, I'll have to wait and see. For now, it's already good enough that I'm still alive. Zhou Donghuang's heart was filled with bitterness. Being weak was still a sin. Now, everything was under Ning-sang's control. Even if Ning-sang wanted to kill him, he would not be able to resist. As he practiced, Zhou Donghuang could feel waves of liquefied spirit energy entering his body, following the path of the Lord of the Four Supremes. After every major circulation, his level of practice would increase correspondingly. Furthermore, this increase was very fast and exaggerated. After an unknown period of time, Zhou Donghuang realized that his two Dharma powers, which had yet to enter the primordial soul stage, had also entered the primordial soul stage. Then, the four early primordial soul stage primordial souls underwent another transformation. One by one, the primordial souls broke through to the mid-primordial soul stage. Then, the late primordial soul stage. Only when all 4 primordial souls had broken through to the late primordial soul stage did the external spirit energy stop entering Zhou Donghuang's body. More accurately, the spirit energy that had been gathered from all over the Guiyao planet was almost completely depleted. Zhou Donghuang opened his eyes, and what he saw was a beautiful face that was drenched in sweat. It was not difficult to sense that the woman in front of him had become much weaker. It was obvious that she had overexerted herself. Seeing this, Zhou Donghuang's heart could not help but throb. Most of all, he was grateful. You didn't have to do this. Zhou Donghuang smiled bitterly. Even if it was me, it would not have taken me long to reach my current level of practice. You've used up all your energy and inner yuan to help me gather the spirit energy of the Guiyao planet to increase my level of practice. It's too much for you. In the next year and a half, I'm afraid you will be in a weakened state. Now, even an ordinary separating divinity adept would be able to kill you. If at the start, Zhou Donghuang was not too sure what Emo Ningsang was trying to do, now, after experiencing it himself and following the memories of Emo Ningsang that he had previously shared with her, he knew what Emo Ningsang had done. Emo Ningsang had used the secret technique of her tribe to gather the spirit energy of the Guiyao planet to help him increase his level of practice. This secret technique could only be used once in a lifetime by the members of her tribe. Furthermore, it consumed a lot of energy. My man, I've shared your memories and I know of your desire for power. I'm just doing my best to help you. However, I can only help you this much, Emo Ningsang said slowly. This can be considered part of the dowry that I'm giving you in advance. I look forward to you coming to my tribe in the future and openly marrying me. Also, that girl named Luo Qinghan is my bottom line. In the future, before your power surpasses mine, I will not allow you to fool around with other women. Otherwise, I will cut you up. As she finished speaking, Emo Ningsang's figure disappeared before Zhou Donghuang's eyes. It was obvious that she had left. Chapter 308. The elixirs here should be of some use to you, so I'll leave them for you. Now it's time for me to leave. As Emo Ningsang finished speaking, her fairy-like figure had already drifted out of Zhou Donghuang's sight. She left behind another sentence before completely disappearing. You've already read through my memories, so there's no need for me to say more. I'll wait for you to come to my clan and marry me. After Emo Ningsang left, Zhou Donghuang was still in a daze as if he was in a dream. After a while, he recovered his senses and smiled bitterly. Could it be that in my previous life I was so pitiful? God pitied me and arranged so many romantic encounters for me? First it was Luo Qinghan and now it's Emo Ningsang. It was all an accident. At the start, Zhou Donghuang had been very bothered by the fact that Emo Ningsang had shared his memories, and had even thought of killing Emo Ningsang to prevent any future trouble. But now he had temporarily given up on that idea. Based on the current situation, not only did Emo Ningsang not have any ill intentions towards him, but she really did see him as her partner. She had even burned her heart's energy to use a secret technique to forcefully gather the spirit weapons of the Guiyao planet for him, helping him increase his level of practice at an extremely fast rate. In my memories, this secret technique can only be used by the direct descendants of that clan. There is a limit to one's energy, and using this secret technique once in a lifetime does not have much effect on the direct descendants of that clan. If they forcefully use it a second time, it will deplete their life force, and unless they have no other choice, no one in that clan would be willing to use this secret technique a second time. The human heart was mutual. As long as one had a conscience, if you treated me well, I would naturally not harm you. Now Zhou Donghuang was like this, and he had already dispelled his animosity towards Emo Ningsang. However, with regards to this sudden or perhaps even inexplicable marriage, he really did not know how to deal with it. Luo Qinghan alone was already difficult enough for him to handle, and now there was Emo Ningsang. Forget it. I'll just take it one step at a time. As for them, it's all up to fate. Thinking of this, Zhou Donghuang was relieved. Late-stage primordial divinity. As Zhou Donghuang thought this, 4 powerful auras swept out from his body. In the blink of an eye, 4 majestic primordial soul powers condensed in the void, and each of the primordial soul powers emitted a terrifying aura. The first primordial soul power was a dragon that coiled in the air. It was dozens of meters long and had a domineering aura. It was the green dragon primordial soul power that Zhou Donghuang had cultivated using the Lord of the Four Supremes. The second primordial soul power was a bird, and its inner yuan was raging all over its body, as if it was on fire, and there was a faint heat emanating from it. It was Zhou Donghuang's vermilion bird primordial soul power. The third primordial spirit was a ferocious giant tiger. Its robust body seemed to contain a terrifying explosive power. It was the white tiger primordial spirit. The last primordial spirit was a giant tortoise-like creature. It was as big as a mountain, but at the end of its tail was another head like a python or a dragon. It was the black tortoise primordial spirit. Ordinary people have two choices when cultivating their primordial soul power. One is to cultivate a human-shaped primordial soul power, and the other is to cultivate a primordial soul power that evolves from Dharma power. As for me, I have no choice but to cultivate the primordial soul power of the Four Supremes, as I practice the Lord of the Four Supremes. Of course, with just a thought, I can transform any one of the primordial soul power of the Four Supremes into a human-shaped primordial soul power that I project. Almost as soon as Zhou Donghuang thought this, the primordial soul power of the Four Supremes in the void trembled and transformed into 4 human-shaped primordial souls. They were 4 enlarged versions of Zhou Donghuang. Furthermore, the aura that each Zhou Donghuang exuded was different, and it was not the same aura that the Four Supremes exuded. With my current ability, I have the ability to kill anyone below the divine transformation stage, unless they are a primordial soul adept who has also cultivated an ancient primordial soul technique, even if they are an elite adept of the ultimate primordial soul stage. After carefully sensing his abilities, Zhou Donghuang had a deep understanding of his current ability. And all of this could be said to have been given to him by Imo Ningsang. I really owe her a big favor. Zhou Donghuang sighed softly before regaining his composure. He collected a pile of spirit herbs that had grown in the cave abode due to the abundance of spirit energy in the past. Just as Imo Ningsang had said, these spirit herbs were useful to him. They were all spirit herbs that could be used to refine the core drugs that divine transformation adepts needed. The valley head is still outside. After collecting the spirit herbs, Zhou Donghuang then remembered He Jin, who had come to the Guiyao planet with him. Now that she has left, it seems that she has not imprisoned the valley head. When Zhou Donghuang flew out of the waterfall, he saw He Jin standing in the void a distance away. His expression was extremely solemn, as if he was facing a formidable enemy. It was only when he saw Zhou Donghuang emerge that his furrowed brows relaxed. With a shocked expression he asked, "Donghuang, you actually came out from inside? Was there a powerful being inside?" He did not even show himself. Just the power that extended from inside was enough to restrain and suppress me. That being did not make things difficult for you? Although the restraining and suppressive power had disappeared, he did not dare to act rashly before knowing what the other party was thinking. He remained where he was. After waiting for a while, Zhou Donghuang appeared. "Oh." Zhou Donghuang shook his head. "She has already left." "Left?" Zhou Donghuang's words caused He Jin to heave a long sigh of relief. "It's good that she has left, it's good that she has left." If possible, he really did not want to face that power again. It was also because the other party had no intention of killing him. Otherwise he would have died a few hundred times over. "Valley Head, after following you back to the Tailao planet, I plan to leave immediately and will not return to the sect. Third Senior Sister and Donghuang, please help me inform them." Zhou Donghuang said to He Jin. With his current ability, he could already do many things that he had been unable to do in the past. In the coming period he would be very busy. "All right," He Jin replied. On the way back, although He Jin was very curious about what had happened to Zhou Donghuang on the Guiyao planet, he did not ask in the end. This was because everyone had their own secrets, and since Zhou Donghuang did not take the initiative to talk about it, it was not convenient for him to ask. However, the level of practice that Zhou Donghuang had displayed once again still left him dumbfounded. Late primordial soul stage? One had to know that when he had first arrived, Zhou Donghuang had only been an early primordial soul adept. In such a short period of time, he had already reached the late primordial soul stage? It seems like the large-scale loss of spirit energy on the Guiyao planet has something to do with Zhou Donghuang's breakthrough in practice. It must have been the help of the separating divinity or higher who helped Zhou Donghuang increase his level of practice. Now, it was not difficult for He Jin to guess this. This was because under normal circumstances, no matter how talented Zhou Donghuang was, it was impossible for him to break through 2 levels of practice in such a short period of time. After returning to the Tailao planet where the Lightning Sword sect was located, Zhou Donghuang bade farewell to He Jin and went to the galaxy teleporter outside the Lightning Sword sect's base. Just as Zhou Donghuang was about to leave, a figure appeared near the galaxy teleporter. "Zhou Donghuang is not dead. It seems like the 7th prince's guess was correct." The three masters have failed. But Valley Head He Jin alone, did he have the ability to defeat and even kill the three masters? He had seen Zhou Donghuang and He Jin return together, so he knew that He Jin had left with Zhou Donghuang. The failure of the three masters of the Qi dynasty was most likely related to He Jin as well. However, He Jin's strength made him doubt He Jin in his heart. Forget it, I'm not going to think about it anymore. I'm just a messenger. I'll just report this matter to the seventh prince. On a faraway planet, the seventh prince of the Qi dynasty, Qi Feng, had been waiting for news. Chu Wei and the other two masters had been pursuing the Lightning Sword sect disciple, Zhou Donghuang, for a long time and had not returned. This made him realize that something was amiss, so he once again sent out an order to the few people hidden in the Lightning Sword sect to keep a close eye on Zhou Donghuang's whereabouts. Seventh Prince. A voice came from outside. The secret guards of the Lightning Sword sect have sent news. There's finally news. Although Qi Feng did not look too good and he had a bad feeling about this, he still walked out to listen to the report. After listening to the report, even though he was mentally prepared, he could not help but be stunned. That Zhou Donghuang is unharmed? Furthermore, he returned to the Lightning Sword sect with the Autumn Valley head, He Jin? He had never imagined that this would be the result. If it had been the two divine transformation adepts of the Lightning Sword sect, he could still understand. He Jin? This Autumn Valley head of the Lightning Sword sect, in his eyes and even in the eyes of the Qi dynasty, was just a nobody. In the Honglio galaxy, adepts who had not entered the divine transformation stage were not even worth the attention of the Qi dynasty. Did the two divine transformation adepts of the Lightning Sword sect leave the Lightning Sword sect? Qi Feng asked in a low voice. The secret guard said that, ever since Zhou Donghuang left the Lightning Sword sect, until Zhou Donghuang returned, the two divine transformation adepts of the Lightning Sword sect had not left the Lightning Sword sect. The person continued to report. Hearing this, Qi Feng was silent for a while, and his lips curled into a mocking smile. He could not help but squint his eyes. Interesting. Looks like the Autumn Valley head of the Lightning Sword sect, He Jin, has most likely entered the divine transformation stage. Even if he has just entered the divine transformation stage, if it was a sneak attack, it would be enough to kill Chu Wei and the other two. Other than that, there is another possibility: he has external help. However, the possibility of this is very low. Qi Feng guessed as he muttered to himself. Your Highness, the person said. The secret guards also reported that Zhou Donghuang had used the galaxy teleporter to reach his destination. This is useless. Qi Feng regained his calm and indifferent appearance and said indifferently, as long as he's not stupid, he'll first go to a random place to transfer, and then from that place to his destination. Moreover, even if he really goes to that place, trying to find him is no different from looking for a needle in a haystack. However, we cannot just let this matter rest. Let's kill He Jin first and see if Zhou Donghuang can still hide outside peacefully. Chapter 309. Zhou Donghuang did not know that in this life, his appearance in the Honglio galaxy had caused many people's fates to change drastically. It was not just the people of the Lightning Sword sect in the Autumn Valley, but the entire Lightning Sword sect and many people of the Qi dynasty. Because of Zhou Donghuang's appearance, their lives had changed completely. Everyone's fates were changing. Zhou Donghuang returned to 1,000 years ago. Like a small butterfly, he flew into the originally orderly space and time. Although his strength was not considered great, he still affected the operation of this space and time. In fact, 10 years ago this change had already begun on the Ziyun planet. Many people's fates had undergone earth-shattering changes because of the change in his life trajectory. In my memory, in my previous life, the divine beast cub that was fought over by many of the great tribes and sects of the galaxy and was accidentally killed appeared in this area. After leaving the Tailao planet of the Honglio galaxy, Zhou Donghuang did not directly go to his destination, which was one of the planets in the Shenting galaxy, the Yedong planet. He took a stroll in a certain galaxy teleportation array on a planet in another galaxy. Then he came here. This time he had only one goal: the divine beast cub. Divine beasts were actually a type of demonic beasts, but they possessed the most noble bloodline among the demonic beasts. It was said that they were born with inherited memories. As long as they were given time, they would sooner or later undergo tribulation and evolve into a divine beast, ascending to the divine world. Divine beasts were invincible in the same stage. It was said that in the ancient times, there were human adepts who could fight against divine beasts of the same stage, but there were none now. In the past, Zhou Donghuang did not know the difference between the adepts of the ancient times and the adepts of the current era. However, after meeting Lu Pingxing, he knew that the ancient humans had practiced ancient techniques. For example, the Lord of the Four Supremes that he was practicing now was also an ancient technique. With the Lord of the Four Supremes that I am practicing, I should be able to fight against divine beasts of the same stage. This time, Zhou Donghuang had come to the Yedong planet to obtain the divine beast cub. In his previous life, he had also participated in the battle for the divine beast cub. Of course, rather than participating, it was more like joining in the fun. Because at that time he was not strong enough to compete with others. He could only watch from the sidelines with a group of loose cultivators. He watched as the major powers fought for the baby divine beast, and in the end accidentally killed the baby divine beast. That divine beast cub is an inconspicuous dog. It doesn't look much different from the native dogs on Earth, the Chinese countryside dogs. The only difference is that it has a single horn on its head. Back then, although Zhou Donghuang was far away, he could still clearly see the divine beast cub. It was a single-horned puppy. Its body was as black as ink, and its eyes were blood red. In the process of the various forces fighting over it, it tried to escape and was killed by mistake. As for the person who killed it, he was also killed by a group of enraged powerhouses, just as expected. Back then, this was the place where the fight over the infant divine beasts took place. Now, Zhou Donghuang was hovering in the air above a vast forest. This was a demon forest, and there were as many demons as there were clouds. In his previous life, he had been here once, and this time he had followed the memories of his previous life to find this place. I still have to go in and take a look. The Yedong planet was just a planet with similar spirit energy to the Tailao planet where the Lightning Sword sect was located. Within the Shenting galaxy, it was considered a relatively undeveloped planet. The reason why it had attracted so many powerful forces was because someone had spread the news. The birth of a divine beast caused a huge commotion, and auspicious signs appeared that lasted for many days. As the news spread, all the forces in the various galaxies who had received the news rushed over through the galaxy teleporter, intending to fight for the baby divine beast. This time, Zhou Donghuang planned to find the divine beast before it awakened its inherited memories and was officially born. Then, when it was about to awaken its inherited memories, he would bring it to a remote place so that it would not alert others. Otherwise, the scene from his previous life would definitely repeat itself. Before a divine beast awakens its inherited memories, it is no different from a normal demon. However, under normal circumstances, since it awakened its inherited memories here, it should be here now. After all, before awakening its inherited memories, it was only at the Khanate stage. Once a divine beast entered the primal core stage, it would awaken its inherited memories. At that time, it would be like a carp leaping through the dragon's gate, a pheasant turning into a phoenix soaring into the sky. And before that, even the divine beast itself might have thought that it was just a normal demon. Now, what Zhou Donghuang wanted to do was to find the divine beast before it awakened its inherited memories. Then, no matter what method he used, whether it was soft or hard, he had to bring it away. A divine beast, and one that had not awakened its inherited memories at that. If he could obtain it, it would be a great help to him. In fact, if the divine beast grew up, it could even rule over a supreme sect or a great tribe in the galaxy. In this demon forest, the strongest demon should at most be a primordial soul demon. Primordial soul demons, with his current ability, should be at most a primordial soul demon. Whoosh! In a flash, Zhou Donghuang entered the demon forest beneath his feet and headed straight for the central region of the demon forest. At the beginning he was met with resistance and some ignorant demons pounced on him. However, these demons, without exception, all died at his hands. The closer he got to the central region of the demon forest, the stronger the demons were. Gradually, there were no longer any demons blocking Zhou Donghuang's way. Obviously, the power that Zhou Donghuang had displayed along the way had deterred the demons that were hiding in the dark. As long as the demon was not like the one on the Guiyao planet, as long as it entered the Khanate stage, it would awaken its intelligence. Once it entered the primal core stage, it could even speak. Once it entered the Dharma stage, it could take on a human form, but there were still traces of a demon, and one could tell at a glance that it was a demon. Once a demon entered the primordial soul stage, it could perfectly take on a human form, and at a glance, it looked no different from a human. Whoosh, whoosh. As Zhou Donghuang neared the center of the demon forest, two figures appeared on his originally unobstructed path, blocking his way. These two silhouettes were two humanoid figures. However, although they were in human form, their heads and limbs still had the characteristics of a demon that had not completely transformed, and they looked a little out of place. If they were on Earth, they would be complete monsters. Obviously, these were two demons at the Dharma stage. Human, back off. This is not a place where you should be. One of the Dharma demons had the head of an eagle, and although its hands looked like human arms, they were still connected to its body, and there were traces of eagle wings on them. Obviously, this was an eagle-type demon at the Dharma stage. At this moment, it stared sharply at Zhou Donghuang and said coldly, "It's been a long time since a demon has stopped me." Zhou Donghuang looked at the two beasts in front of him and said calmly. Along the way, other than being attacked by the beasts at the beginning, his journey had been smooth. Although the beasts on the way had noticed him, they had all sensed danger and did not dare to approach him. Of course, this was also because Zhou Donghuang had accidentally released his divine sense along the way. The pressure of his divine sense made the beasts feel as if they were sitting on pins and needles. And now, seeing that he was about to reach the deepest part of the demon forest, which was also the central region of the demon forest, Zhou Donghuang retracted his divine sense, wanting to recover and then explore the deepest part of the demon forest. However, he did not expect that not long after he retracted his divine sense, beasts would appear in front of him to stop him. Human, don't compare those small demons outside to us. The other Dharma demon had the head of a leopard, and its hands also had the outline of a human's arms. However, it was covered in leopard fur and claws, which revealed that it was a leopard demon. Is that so? Zhou Donghuang's eyes narrowed into slits. Without any warning, he raised his hand and clapped. In an instant, his inner yuan coalesced into a giant palm print. With a loud bang, the palm print slammed the leopard-headed Dharma demon into the ground, causing the demon's body to sink into the ground. Wah! Zhou Donghuang did not kill the demon. He only severely injured the Dharma demon. As the demon spat out blood from its mouth, when it looked at Zhou Donghuang again, its green eyes were filled with fear and its voice trembled. You're a primordial soul adept? Whoosh, whoosh. A strong gust of wind blew as if the wind was howling. It was the eagle-headed Dharma demon. After seeing Zhou Donghuang seriously injure the leopard demon with a single slap, and displaying the power of a primordial soul adept, the eagle-headed Dharma demon's arms shook, and its entire body shot up into the air like an arrow, obviously trying to escape. However, just as it rose into the air before it could even fly out of the demon forest, Zhou Donghuang's giant palm, which had been formed by his inner yuan, grabbed it, causing it to be unable to move. "Sir, spare us, spare us." The eagle-headed demon's sharp eyes were filled with fear, and it begged for mercy. "We were blind, we didn't know that you were a primordial soul adept. We didn't know, but we hope that you'll spare us on account of our hard work. Sir, spare us, spare us." As if inspired by the eagle-headed demon, the leopard demon also looked at Zhou Donghuang with a pleading expression, begging for mercy. Zhou Donghuang snorted coldly. "If I wanted to kill you, do you think you'd still be alive?" Zhou Donghuang was not someone who would kill indiscriminately, whether it was humans or beasts that had developed sentience. Along the way, beasts that had developed sentience, unless they tried to kill him, he did not kill them. He only taught them a lesson. The two Dharma demons in front of him did not try to kill him, only blocking his way. Naturally, he did not want to kill them. Chapter 310. My Lord. Seeing that Zhou Donghuang had forgiven them and continued to walk deeper into the demon forest, a hint of hesitation flashed in the eyes of the eagle-headed demon. Finally, it opened its mouth to warn Zhou Donghuang, "In the depths of the forest, there are many primordial soul stage demons. It is said that there are even some that are close to the divine transformation stage and are almost there. If possible, I advise you to retreat. Although I don't know why you're going so deep into the forest, no matter what it is, it shouldn't be as important as your life, right?" Hearing the eagle-headed beast's warning, Zhou Donghuang looked at it in surprise, but did not say anything else. After giving it a deep look, he walked deeper into the forest. As he walked, he thought to himself, "A primordial core demon that is close to the divine transformation stage? As long as it's not a divine transformation stage demon, with my current ability, I can deal with it." After Zhou Donghuang's silhouette disappeared from sight, the leopard beast that had just crawled out of the ground looked at the eagle-headed beast and said coldly, "Why did you warn that human? He almost killed us. Wouldn't it have been better if he had died in the depths of the forest?" As the leopard beast said this, its eyes were filled with hatred. After all, that human had almost killed it. After all, he didn't kill us, did he? The eagle-headed beast was not afraid of the leopard beast and said calmly, Think about how much time and effort you've put in to get to where you are today. If you die, there will be nothing left. He's already doing us a great favor by not killing us." As soon as it finished speaking, the eagle-headed beast turned and left, leaving only the leopard beast standing where it was, its eyes flashing and its expression uncertain. Of course, Zhou Donghuang was unaware of all this. Now, as Zhou Donghuang ventured deeper into the demon forest, some of the birds and beasts that did not have much practice seemed to realize that he was not to be trifled with, and they all gave way to him, causing the originally quiet environment to become even quieter. As Zhou Donghuang walked deeper into the forest, he stopped when he saw a wooden hut. The wooden hut was not big and it looked a little crude, but for it to appear in the depths of the forest, it was still somewhat intriguing. Creak! Just as Zhou Donghuang was staring at the wooden hut, the door swung open and an old man in a brownish-green robe walked out. Although the old man looked to be over 70 years of age and had a head full of white hair, he was obviously very energetic. When he saw Zhou Donghuang, his originally cloudy eyes suddenly lit up. At the same time, after glancing at Zhou Donghuang, he began to look around Zhou Donghuang's surroundings, not missing anything. Zhou Donghuang could clearly sense that the old man's divine will was sweeping out and raging around his body. It was obvious that the old man was searching for something. There's no need to investigate. Zhou Donghuang looked at the old man calmly and said, "I'm alone." How could he not see that the old man had used his spiritual force to probe because he thought that there was someone else beside him? Whoosh! Just as Zhou Donghuang finished speaking, the old man's divine will gathered and swept towards Zhou Donghuang. Umph! Faced with the old man's unfriendly divine will, Zhou Donghuang's eyes narrowed, and his face seemed to be covered with a layer of frost. He snorted coldly, and an even stronger divine will swept out from his body to meet the old man's divine will. Boom! The divine wills collided. And in this instant, Zhou Donghuang's divine will destroyed the old man's divine will like a broken twig. The old man, who had suffered from the backlash of the divine will, also turned pale in the blink of an eye. His body trembled slightly and his face turned red. In the end, he could not help but spit out a large mouthful of blood. Although the backlash of the divine will was only on his soul, it still put a lot of pressure on his body. A late primordial soul adept? When he looked at Zhou Donghuang again, the old man's face was full of shock and disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost. This young human was actually already a late primordial soul adept? Bring us to see your demon king. Ignoring the old man's shock, Zhou Donghuang spoke again. Wherever the beasts gathered, there was basically a demon king. For example, when he had first met Big Gold and Little Gold on the Ziyun planet, they were the kings of the lost forest of the beasts. Some of the more powerful demonic beasts' gathering places were even stricter in terms of ranks. For example, the old man in front of him, as a primordial soul demon that could already take human form, must have submitted to the most powerful demon in this forest, which was why he could continue to stay here and live. Otherwise he would either be expelled or killed. And at this time, the old man's attitude towards Zhou Donghuang had also undergone a 180-degree change, becoming much more humble. Yes, Lord. From the way he saw it, this kind of human, not to mention the possible backer behind him, perhaps even the king of this forest would be afraid of. Just the power of this human was not something he could contend with. Therefore he had no choice but to be obedient. Led by the old man, they had only walked for a short while when someone blocked their way. It was a tall, well-built middle-aged man. Zhou Donghuang glanced at this middle-aged man and realized that he was even taller than Donghuang. Now he was staring at the old man who was leading the way with a pair of eyes as large as gongs. In a loud voice he shouted, "Old fox, how dare you bring a human into my territory? Do you think that just because the king values you, I won't dare to touch you?" As soon as he finished speaking, the inner yuan on the tall middle-aged man's body fluctuated, and immediately, the figure of a giant ape appeared. It stood there like a mountain, majestic and awe-inspiring. This was not a dharma but a primordial soul. The primordial spirit of the giant ape, which was almost tangible, stood there like a mountain. It was simply like a Vajra god of war. Clearly, this primordial soul demon that had taken the form of a middle-aged man was a giant ape demon. Mid-primordial soul. The power of this primordial soul demon was obviously stronger than the old man who was leading the way. The old man was only an early primordial soul demon, but this primordial soul demon was a mid-primordial soul demon. Big fool. Faced with this threat, the old man only glanced at the middle-aged man. You better apologize to this lord quickly. If you anger him, he can smash your head with one hand. What did you say? When the middle-aged man heard the old man's words, he was stunned at first, then he flew into a rage. His originally restless gaze became unusually sharp, and waves of restlessness spread from his body. He's just a small human, I can kill him with one slap just like swatting a fly. The middle-aged man's emotions seemed to have been completely ignited. With a roar, his body gradually merged with the giant ape primordial soul, and then the giant ape primordial soul became even more solid. Roar, the giant ape primordial soul roared loudly, then raised a hand and really slapped down on Zhou Donghuang. This slap landed on Zhou Donghuang's head with the weight of a mountain, and it was extremely aggressive. Seeing this, the old man's eyes flashed with a hint of cunning. Faced with the giant ape primordial soul's slap, Zhou Donghuang's expression did not change. It was only when the slap was about to land on his head that the inner yuan in his body surged out like a tidal wave. A huge, solid figure also appeared, and in the blink of an eye, it passed through the sky above the forest, looking even bigger. This was a giant tiger. The giant ape primordial soul's slap landed on Zhou Donghuang's white tiger primordial soul, but it only caused the area to shake. When the white tiger primordial soul opened its mouth and let out a loud roar, a terrifying inner yuan force roared out and instantly destroyed the giant ape primordial soul. They were not on the same level at all. After the giant ape primordial soul was destroyed, the middle-aged man's figure once again appeared, but with a loud thud, he fell to the ground. When he looked at Zhou Donghuang again, his eyes were filled with fear. Ultimate primordial soul stage demon? Whoosh. At the same time, the middle-aged man's figure gradually faded, and in its place was a giant black ape that was more than 10 meters tall. The giant ape had a tuft of silver-white hair on its head, which was especially eye-catching. At this moment, the giant ape looked at Zhou Donghuang with fear in its eyes. He is not a demon, he is a human. A strong voice suddenly rang out. It was unknown when, but a figure had appeared soundlessly. Of course, Zhou Donghuang had long noticed this silent figure. However, the giant ape and the old man had not noticed him. Greetings, King. After seeing who had arrived, the slyness and smugness in the old man's eyes disappeared, and in its place was a look of respect. He immediately knelt on the ground, and even his old face was pressed tightly against the ground. Greetings, King. Greetings, King. The other human figures who had just arrived also knelt on the ground, paying their respects to the person in the air. Among these people there were young men, young women, old women, and a beautiful woman. King, you say that he is a human? But his primordial soul is clearly a demon. The injured giant ape said in disbelief. Can't a human cultivate the primordial soul of a demon? In the air, a middle-aged man dressed in a silver robe, his face elegant and dignified, and he held a folding fan in his hand. He glanced lightly at the giant ape and said calmly, King, I have embarrassed you. The giant ape struggled to kneel on the ground. Its aura was weak and its body swayed, but it still gritted its teeth and held on, ignoring the blood dripping from the corner of its mouth. At the same time, the gaze of the silver-robed middle-aged man turned extremely cold, and it landed on the old man who had led the way for Zhou Donghuang. He said calmly, You want to borrow the hands of others to kill Fang Yuan? Do you think that the rules that I have set are fake? Or, did you not take my words to heart? As he spoke, the silver-robed middle-aged man's voice seemed to be able to send a chill down one's spine. King, I was wrong. Kneeling on the ground, the old man's body trembled. Even his voice was trembling. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.